Hey there, everybody. Welcome. It's July 1st. It's Gettysburg anniversary, 163. And I thought, what else to do besides have a live stream, talk Gettysburg, and bring somebody on who knows Gettysburg. So, welcome to our ancient one, Mark Herman.
Hello, everybody.
To talk Gettysburg and kind of give you a tour of what's coming up for Gettysburg over here too. He's got we've talked about it a little bit more. He's done a Gettysburg game, and I think he's played a few of them in his career. Everybody remembers this one. This one, we'll be talking about that because that's going to kind of evolve into something that you'll see later on here when we get going with this. And kind of talk it over. And, today's July 1st. So what better day to talk Gettysburg and all about it and, give you an idea what's going on there. And we'll play a little bit too. We're not just going to be talking about it. We're going to play some of the original Gettysburg to talk about how it evolved and, what it does here. But welcome, Mark. How you doing? You survived the weather?
Yes, I've lived in heat before, but I get up early, so I had a beautiful morning before the temperature, started going up. Although I think when I wake up tomorrow, it's going to already be 80 degrees, so that's going to be warm. Unless they're calling for a thunderstorm tonight, which is very typical of Westchester at this time of year.
Yeah.
As soon as it starts spiking to 90 degrees, there's going to be turbulence in the air, and usually, so I think sometime tonight while I'm asleep, I might hear thunder crashing around, but that's fine. Yep. I'll be inside. Hi from Australia. Oh, wow.
Oh,
Peter,
welcome from Australia. Thanks.
Hello, Alan and Mark. Oh, we got Nordic is here, and
we got Chuck. Chuck's here. Nordic's here. Two of our regulars. Yep, I saw Telemachus back there someplace. He was on there. So if you're out there, drop a hello in the chat. Say hi. Happy, I would say happy July 1st, but it's happy July.
I don't know. There's nothing right now, although the sound is off in the background, like the American Bosnia-Herzegovina soccer matches started in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you ever saw you might hear me go, go.
We've got the knockout games going. Yeah.
I saw a couple. I've already... I played actually. I mean, when I played soccer at college, so I know how to play. So it's kind of fun to watch other people play, but it was a long time ago. But I did play. I was a right wing a long time ago.
Oh yeah. We all played some sports a long time ago.
Well, yeah, everything I did was exactly. But I was in 3 different sports, so I kind of got a feeling. It was a good time. Being, I was always a mediocre athlete, but I was an athlete. There's no question. How many hours I spent training. So it didn't do much for my. I didn't make any money out of it. But when you were 72 and you did all that when you were young and you kept it up, it doesn't suck.
Yeah. Well, it helps. I know.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah.
Same thing.
I set up Rhodes Assault on Oak Hill from the new 3 Dog. Yeah, by the way, I in an ode to Richard. So in Lemus North, we'll be talking about that later. I have 4 Gettysburg scenarios called 1 Dog, 2 Dog, 3 Dog, and 4 Dog. So 1 Dog is the first day. 2 Dog is obviously just the afternoon of the second day. 3 Dog is the afternoon of the third day. But 4 Dog is what is traditionally, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but I also play the 4th. So it's 4 Dog.
4 Dogs. That's good. Get the nod in there to
my buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, there's so much legacy there. So much. I think a lot of people got into the games through that. I know. Terrible Swift Sword.
Yeah, I'm going to come right back. It's right there. I'm just going to bring something over for show and tell.
Yeah. I mean, Terrible Swift Sword was one of the first Gettysburgs for me, that and Gettysburg 77. But I surely preferred Terrible Swift Sword. So
this is has always been my preferred version of Berg's Terrible Swift Sword.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the first edition. And I like this one better than anything that came after, only because I like the quirkier. That's a word, I guess. command control system that's in this one that they, cleaned up, or whether they cleaned it up or not, they changed it. But I do intend this at the end of this month. I'm going somewhere for vacation, and I'm going to bring the new one sitting right over there, the newest edition of this series, and I'm going to, at a minimum, punch out the counters and maybe play like Stevenson's Depot or some, play one of the small scenarios just to see what the system's like these days. But this was the one I've always played.
Oh yeah.
But to be honest, I talked to a good friend of mine who, I know I've said this before, but I was a play tester on Terrible Swift Sword when I knew Berg, before I even worked at SPI. And Gary Gonzalez is a childhood friend and still is a friend. And I asked him the other day to tell me from memory, did we ever finish an entire game of Terrible Swift Sword? I said to him, and because I was trying, and he said, no, I don't think so. So we definitely have played the first day to completion multiple times. We definitely have played into the third day, but we never finished. We never went to the bitter end. We guess we must have figured out who had won, or we were just like, my mother needed her dining room table back, and that was that. I don't remember how, but that's as far as I remember going. But I've never actually, when it comes to like Pacific War, people always start in camp, these strategic scenarios. And I'll submit that I have played it to completion. I mean, the word completion is important here, to the bitter end. And I doubt that anybody has ever played it 5 times to completion.
Oh, no, not 5 times. I've played it once. I have completed it once.
Oh, then you're already in a rare craft just to say that. Oh, yeah.
But I've got to put big, caveats.
Hey, if you finished it once, that puts you in like a small club of probably, I doubt there's 100 people who could say that.
Probably.
Now, thousands of people have started a strategic scenario. That I believe, but finish, not that many.
Yeah,
it's a long.
I still think I have the photocopied, not here, but upstairs, the photocopied sheets for the artillery ammo and everything like that saved for that, because I figured it was.
You're talking about Pacific War or Terrible Swift Sword?
Terrible Swift Sword.
Yeah. I was to say.
And we did it over. I think it was about a month and a half worth of weekends. Luckily we could keep it set up. Of course, you guys made
good progress then.
Yeah, we would do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You were doing 3 days. Yeah, it is definitely. I would say the gameplay. If the battle's 3 days long, I would say that it's more of like a 4-to-1 in playtime. Like you need 4 human days to play 1 day of Gettysburg. 12 days. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that was that. But that was back. We were all teenagers.
Yeah. Well, Gons and I, we were in college, and during the summer times, when I would be working during the day, in the evening, if I didn't have a date or something, we would get together at my mother's. My mother had a nice really big dining room table that would hold it.
Yeah.
And for the most part, she was very generous about our use of her dining room table. And then every so often she'd come to us and go, okay, look, boys, in 2 weeks, I have a dinner party. so that's when Gons and I would really, Wellington's Victory was one that we played, or Drag Knock Austin or something. We'd have to really like buckle down and see how far we could get before we had to take it down, because the dinner party was happening and we were not invited. I am to play both Pacific War and Empire of the Sun this year. Good man, Nordic. Well, I can't wait I hope you'll post what happens. The big flyer just over my house. Big flyer. Oh, this guy must live. I guess he must be in San Francisco. I guess if that's a flyover, I'm guessing that's what he means.
Something going over his house. Yeah. There was one here I wanted to point out too. There was a Phantom Captain here talking about he's really liking.
Oh, well, thank you. Breaking a new series in the crowded American Civil War field is not easy. Although, as I've pointed out a million times, it's in its own lane scale-wise. In other words, it's not, if you think about tactical systems, and we've been talking about GBACW, but you've got, the most excellent Blind Swords, the most excellent Black Swan, which is really Black Swords, but, with cards, bigger maps. And then you've got, all the cool stuff that Worthington. I have their Gettysburg game over there. I've played that. That's a good one these days. And I just got their Wilderness, $130. Yeah, well, lucky, I got nothing else to spend money on these days. And then what else? What other Civil War systems have I been playing? There's one other, and it'll come to me. It doesn't matter. Those are sort of the main ones. Hey, meandering Mike, and then at the other level, you've got there's only GCACW really at the operational level these days. This one sort of is, but now people will hear is that with Lee Moves North, we've got Grand Tactical Rebel Fury, we've got Grand Tactical Scale campaigns of, where is it? Here it is. Potomac. And now Lee Moves North is brings the theater into it. And that's why I was asking you where you live. One of the biggest problems, although I played 2-player anything just to test it, but when you're using Stratego blocks, for hidden movement, there's only I cannot fake myself out. I mean, I know mechanically it works, but I haven't had any magical moments because it's hard for me to. I can simulate the real thing. I imagine. I can do all the different strategies that the other guy. Oh, hello, Jeff Fry.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Hey, gents.
How you doing?
I'm still kicking around.
Yeah, that's what every time somebody says, "Oh, how you doing?" and they go, "How are you doing?" I go, "Oh, I woke up this morning." That's my answer to everything these days.
Getting out of bed's a plus.
Hey, if you don't, they're getting a box of wood for you. But anyway, so in Lee Moves North, so I'm having trouble faking myself out with like a hidden movement game. So
yeah. No, we could talk play testing, and we'll get into that here too because we got some good stuff to show everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for jumping on. We got a good crowd in here so far with everybody. Yeah. So what we're going to do tonight? Let me just introduce what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit. It's Gettysburg. It's July 1st, Gettysburg, and stuff like that. What I was thinking is we'll start off talking about a little bit of this old game now. I think it's like 8 years old, isn't it, Mark?
It's 2018, so yeah.
Yeah, it's almost 8 years old. So as the beginning of this whole series, this Civil War Heritage series, and then how it's going to evolve into what you're going to be seeing with what Mark has been telling.
Is that Todd?
No, that's McMurray.
Oh, McMurray. The type is the size of like I can see pretty well, but I cannot read whatever the hell that says. Hey guys,
what's going on, everybody? How's it going, Mark?
It's going right. We're talking about Gettysburg on July 1st. I mean, how bad could that be?
Amen. Alan, Jeffy, Poo Poo, how you doing? We're all Gettysburg themed here, except for Jeffrey, which is the odd part.
I do have it set up on a table over there. That's the best I can do for you.
Nice. What is it?
I don't know. I go over there and play for about 10 seconds, and then I'm bored and go do something else.
What game is it, Jeff?
3-Dog.
Oh, okay.
No mojo, Mark. I still have no mojo. None.
We're gonna, when I see you personally on October 19th, we're gonna do an exorcism.
I hope it's better before that. I really.
We're gonna go heal the healing of Jesus. We'll hit you in the head or something. I don't know.
Just take a spare copy of find an empty box of the new 3-Dog, slip a couple bricks in there, and just start chasing after him with it.
Believe
this
me,
is the burden to bear, Jeffrey.
The brain wants to play, but the heart just won't do it. And I try. I've got some East Front stuff set up over there, and I think I've played the first turn, and it's been set up for 3 nights. It'll come back.
All right, if we talk about this much longer, you're gonna have to pay us for therapy. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, we'll get Mark there. We'll get tour guide Phil. Tour guide Phil's good. He'll be talking ACW there and showing his stuff too. So it'll be good. So.
Just have Phil start naming off brigade commanders until Jeff says, "Okay, I'll play a game." Still,
I think you guys know. I don't know. I'm pretty sure people know this story. So when Berg did Terrible Swift Sword, I wasn't at SPI yet, but I was, like I said, I was a play tester of the Pickett's Charge scenario. And Berg could not find a name for one of the Union Brigade commanders. I don't know which one. I'd have to go look into it. So he decided, in Berg's typical way, he made his therapist, Colonel, whatever the guy's last name is his therapist. So in Terribles with Sword, one of the Union Brigade commanders is not historical. I mean, I don't remember which one it is. You can probably figure it out by elimination.
Somebody
But-
call.
But the funny thing was, he would call me at various times. He goes, "Hey, I just got this new Gettysburg game, and they copied my OB." I go, "Well, how do you know that?" Because my therapist is still a brigade commander in there. and he was horribly amused by, and it was one of those. It was like a thing that he and I had. Like he would, and it happened at least like 4 or 5 times. By the way, some of the older, I don't know what I don't think any of the games that like are still around, but I just wondered. I have to check. I wonder if the brigade commander is still in the current 3-dog. I haven't looked.
Well, here you go. Nordic's got one here. Oops, not that one. Wait, this
That's
one.
right.
Here you go. McSickles.
McSickles. Yeah, but I always found it was amusing. So he always knew when somebody had stolen his or used his Gettysburg, TSS OB without giving credit for. His thing was they just didn't give me credit. Is what he didn't care what the hell they did.
Yeah.
But it was always funny to me that this therapist who probably doesn't even play games, knows anything about games, has been in a lot of games. It's like squad. It's like when you get one of those squad leader counters, custom made for you.
Yeah. That's a good point. You can't do that.
It just cracks me up. Though. It's just one of those stupid Berg stories, but I always found it funny.
I remember
Meandering Mike. I recall it was therapist because that's what he sold me. I don't. If it was, maybe his dentist was also his therapist. I don't know. Maybe he just talked to his dentist. I remember distinctly saying it was his therapist, though. But
Okay.
did he say that accurately? I can't say. Oh, that was close. I got the soccer game on, and
So we got the gang all here. That's cool. So
Yeah.
again, chatting about Gettysburg and everything here. And one of the things I want to do is get Mark kind of talking about his evolution of Gettysburg, because as he says, he's got Lee Moves North coming out, which we've got to have a little bit of a preview on that. Thank you, Mark, for sending that over, and it's
Sure.
really quite interesting.
Jeff,
And-
you got a copy of it also, right?
Yeah, I haven't.
That's okay. I just want to
PDF
make sure about your emails. You haven't blocked me on your email yet.
No, not a chance. The PDF, that PDF you sent.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, have not had a chance to.
Don't worry, it's 111 pages long, so you won't get through it quickly.
Can't you give me crib notes?
Well, remember, a lot of it's setups, so you don't need crib notes for setups.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways, we're gonna get to that first, but I figured I'd like to get pick Mark's brain, because his brain's in a different universe from ours after you start playing his game.
My wife would agree. My wife would agree with.
And you start playing his games, and it's kind of like, oh my god, how did he think of this? Because this just works perfectly with the situation. So one of the things is I was looking at this, and I was thinking, because obviously the new one isn't out yet. We'd bring this up, kind of look at it on Vassal. And one of the things I started playing with it the other day, and I'm like, oh my god, this mimics the decisions for the first day perfectly. With the opening moves with this, and what Heath can or cannot do, and what Buford and Reynolds can and cannot do on that first day. So we'll kind of take a look at that, talk a little bit about how it evolved over there, and then we'll move into the new game and talk about some of the other things that this now expands upon that you may not see in some other games, because I do think there are some pieces in here that you won't see in other Gettysburg games. Which would be really interesting. Some things you could do with it as well. So I'm going to talk about that, and talk about different things, different aspects of Gettysburg, and hopefully everybody's keeping cool. But let's get to it. No, I don't. Didn't even get out on the golf course yesterday, right, Jeff?
No, I played last night. I took, the governor's giving us an extra half a day tomorrow along with the Friday. So I took tomorrow morning off, and I'm not coming out of this apartment
I hear
until Friday morning. I'll go down and play golf. and then Saturday.
I was telling Alan this morning, I get up early, so it was about 6. I was drinking coffee on my deck under some shade because the sun, that side gets the morning sun, it gets hot, but it was beautiful. And then about 8ish already had come up like 15 degrees. It literally was getting hot real fast.
It was 78 when I walked out this morning at 6:50 something.
Yeah, I think it was closer. It was in the low 70s when I woke up, but it was in the 80s by the time I said, okay, that's enough. And I went inside and, started working. But I was editing that document you have. I was editing it because my plan is, well, we'll come back to that. Let's just, Alan, you run the show and we'll come back to the new stuff later.
Let me bring up the original Gettysburg. Now, first thing I think of here is, what prompted you, with this? Because this is a very small game, small footprint. This is something you could play. I was looking at it. I could probably play in like 2 hours.
2 hours?
McMurray
only if you were unconscious.
McMurray played it.
Yeah,
This game, I've never
hour.
finished this game unless it's never gone over an hour ever.
Okay.
I mean, it just doesn't take that long. Now, look, everybody, when I put out a game, people go to me, how long? They don't call it to me, but they put out, how long does it take to play? And I always come back with, how fast a player are you?
That is an entirely reasonable response.
I mean, I am a natural, I just tell you. So I've been playing this game called Imperial Elegy, which is quite good. I mean, I got to tell you, Mike Marino did it through VUCA, and for a first game, if we forget about anything about the game, just the vision and scope of this game is impressive for a first game. So
Mike Ranella?
No, I know who Mike Ranella is, and no, this is a guy named. He's a social studies teacher somewhere here in New York, and his name is Mike Lorino.
Oh, okay.
It's called Imperial Elegy, but basically it covers the world, but that's not the point. But when you play a multiplayer game, you could be Here I Stand, Virgin Queen, this one or anything else, Churchill, it doesn't really matter. If you're playing a multiplayer game, what drives me crazy is when somebody comes around to their turn and goes, oh, what am I going to do now? If you should have been thinking when it wasn't your turn, you should have come up with, okay, I'm going to do this or that, and maybe a third one if it's really – well, I didn't know how things were going to be. I said, yeah, you do. I mean, how much do you think the game's going to evolve in one turn, one round? So when you play a multiplayer game, you should be – so when I play a multiplayer game, if it takes me 30 seconds to make my moves, it's long. I mean, I already figured out what I'm going to do. And if nothing really drastic has changed, I do it, and then I'm done. And it's just, and then the next thing it goes, and the next thing I know, it's like an hour later, and I'm going, oh my God, you're killing me here. Anyway, let's talk about Gettysburg. So how did Gettysburg happen? So I get a call from my dearly deceased friend, Roger McGowan, and Roger goes, Mark, I have a friend of mine, and he's saying to himself, I'd like to have an introductory game that I can start with and kind of, see what wargaming is about. So Roger calls me up, and he says, I decided it would be good for C3I if I had a game in it. And I think I had already done South Pacific, I think, by this time, and like Plan Orange. So I had done a couple of games for him already. So I said, sure, I'll do it. Yep. And I had never, because of, TSS, and you think about Blind Sword, I mean, I never, ever felt that I was ever going to there's literally in BGG 75 games there are 50 games that have Gettysburg in their title. Forget about games like Most Fearful Sacrifice, which is about Gettysburg, but it doesn't have Gettysburg in the title per se, but it's about Gettysburg. So, I mean, and I looked at that list for an article I wrote for C3I, and of the 50 games that are listed in BGG, I have personally played 45 of them. Okay, so I just want to be clear. I have played I know all these. I mean, when I say I know them, I've played them all over the years. I own still most of them. So I get it. I get Gettysburg. And I said to myself, what can I possibly do on Gettysburg that would be meaningful? So I just said, if I'm doing an introductory level game, I don't want to I could have done Blue and Gray in 10 minutes. Put a bunch of counters on the map, force ratio, table of some kind, move around, your move, my move, roll dice. I could have done that in 10 minutes. It's just not that hard. So I really sat down and said, what is 19th century warfare about? And the thing about, everybody says it's like chess, and that's not, anytime you have alternating moves, you're going back to the, Go, chess, chaturanga, all those games, it was alternating movement. But what alternating movement does better than any other method without plotting is it simulates simultaneous movement. That's what I was looking for. So when I came to this idea of, you move a piece, I move a piece, it has various benefits, but the main one is it's as close as you can come to having simultaneous movement in the game without having plotting and all that kind of jazz going on. So that is why I went that way. And then I got this idea, the thought is that so there's something called Leslie's Illustrated, and Leslie's Illustrated, you've all seen it before. Those are all those, printed woodcut drawings of guys assaulting hills in the Civil War. You've seen them.
Oh yeah, all the Alfred Wad pictures and everything.
Alfred Wad was one of their artists. He was their main artist, and he literally action photos of the Civil War are basically a sketch artist, because a camera then had like for you to take a picture with a glass plate camera, it needs about 3-4 seconds of exposure time, and all you would get on the real battlefield is blur. If you could set it up, and take a picture.
Right.
So action photos don't really exist of any meaningful way from that period, unless there's sort of like, there's a famous picture of the Confederates going through Hagerstown, which I think you've all seen. It's about the only picture of real Confederates in the field during the Gettysburg campaign. And it's just because the column at that moment probably was, like a traffic jam. Like, they were marching, and how a column can back up. And so they were all probably standing there, not moving around a lot. And that's why the photo looks, decent. Yet you could actually see individual people and what they're, how they're dressed and all that. Yeah. So when I did this game, I wanted you to feel like each assault. I mean, read any account of the Civil War, any account, and they describe more failed assaults than they do successful assaults. I mean, have you ever read anything different ever?
No.
I mean, look, I can go through Gettysburg, Archer and Davis's brigades thrown back. 3 of Rhodes's initial, Iverson and Daniels, until Ramseur came in. The first 3 brigades that went in got repulsed by Baxter and was it?
Iverson got smoked right off the bat.
Yeah, he got smoked. Exactly, 100%. So when you play an odds ratio game, you compress all that into who won in the end. But I wanted you to feel like, I wanted you to understand the risk calculus of a commander, like how aggressive, how many times are you going to fail it and keep trying? Because that's what those guys were up about. And I wanted you to feel that. And that's not an experience you get in a force, in a force ratio game. And I remember when I posted somewhere about Antietam, and already a guy is going, well, how are you going to handle, the fact that the Union threw their pieces in piecemeal? The whole system's based on that. So I don't have to do anything is really the answer, because when SPI did in the blue and gray Antietam game, the problem was, when you look at the board, the Union has twice as many guys as the Confederates, more or less, pretty close. So the only way for that to come out even close to history is you can't let the 2-to-1 attack in any kind of coordinated way. Otherwise, the whole thing just goes off the rails in 2 seconds. That doesn't happen in the Rebel Fury system because it's all individual assaults. So you now you're fighting compressed lines. Everything works out. There's no special rules for that because the system is already based on individual assaults, which you have in a force ratio game, you have to undo to make it work. And so again, I was dealing with all this. So for me now, look, as you guys can all see on the board, you see a total of 2 combat pieces, right? You got Heth coming down the Chambersburg Pike, and you got Buford on what would be McPherson's. He's on McPherson's Ridge. Like, I'm looking back on the bigger thing over here. So, and he's sitting there, and what's going to happen is as soon as he moves 1 hex, just move the guy 1 hex there, Alan. Yep. As soon as he moves 1 hex, flip him because he's now in a ZOI. So this is where the ZOI thing is, that artillery shoots about a mile. So at this point, these guys are coming down the road, and Tidball Tidball's battery is banging away at them, and you don't stay in column if you're being hit by artillery, so they deploy. And there's vedettes in that same mile. There's all these vedettes from the 6th New York or whoever, the 17th Pennsylvania. I forget which unit was exactly where in that picket line. And so now he's deployed into battle. Now Buford has a choice. He can say, well, I'm holding this ground, or he can move away, right? Because he's not yet, he's still in maneuver formation, so he can move 6 hexes. He can be gone in a second, but because of the mission, he's not going anywhere. So instead, go down to the bottom of the map, Alan. There's the first corps. So move the first corps. Now in this game, you move until you get near a zone of control. So he goes all the way up the road and gets right behind Buford in the first move, I believe, in this game, isn't it?
Oh, he's not limited to the 8 points like in Rebel Fury.
Yeah. Well, that's an evolution. So he can get to, I think, he can't. Yeah, he can get to one more.
Damn close.
Yeah, he can get to there. So now we've simulated Heth coming down the road. He's been delayed by the cavalry, and now here's the first corps. So now move Heth next to Buford. Flip over now he's got to flip. Now he's locked in. And now the next Union move is I would take him around the left side, which is where he came in. Now flip him. Now the Confederate is going to pass because he's got no other pieces on the board. Right. And there'll be enough moves move the first corps up.
I got like 6. So.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You have more than, and then move Howard up. He's down on there you go, on Taneytown Road. Oh, Emmitsburg Road, excuse me. And he just goes up as far as and the other thing is you can put him on Cemetery Hill just for now, so we can talk about Cemetery Hill in a moment. You can put him anywhere you want, but put him on Cemetery Hill. And one of the things people said to me was, why didn't you name Cemetery Hill? And the answer is, they didn't know that first off, nobody knew the name of the hill when they saw it, right? They came down the road, and if they weren't from there, they go, oh, look at that hill. So they only later on did it become Cemetery Hill. So I didn't want the players to fixate on different hills that are famous because that's where the battle was. I wanted them to stay on that hill because it was defensible. And if you note, Cemetery Hill dominates, your ZOI covers all of those roads that go through Gettysburg. You see, so you're dominating the road network from that location, which is why it was important. But you don't have to have a name, and you don't get victory points for holding it. It's not important other than it's a good defensive position. It's good ground, right? The famous good ground. And now we would roll dice and do all the rest. But to me, a Gettysburg game has to get this choreography correct. Otherwise, the whole thing goes, off the rails very quickly. And
right. This is what because I was playing around with this and the variations on this too. And, with just, what we got, 4 pieces plus the headquarters, 6 pieces?
Yeah, the headquarters are not pieces, they're markers technically.
Markers, yeah. You basically captured the first day's maneuvering to exactly what has happened, or at least...
Well, the first day's morning maneuvering.
Morning, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and what I also did when I was doing my deep think on this stuff, what is this, some kind of direct kick? What is this? Oh, I'm sorry. It's a corner kick, and it's out. The point is that it was rare for a unit to do more than, like, at this level. Remember, each piece here is a corps or division, but it was rare for a unit to do more than one thing in half a day. I mean, they just didn't.
That makes total sense.
One of the hardest things to make is Buford's masterful. How do you depict? Well, so Nordic, this is how he's already done it. It's already happened. You watched it happen. Those are his delaying tactics. He didn't wait. He delayed them by being in their way. He didn't do it like it. In other words, the ZOI simulates the delay. In other words, that guy comes rolling down the road. He flips into battle formation. That was the big, the big trick. And remember, every hex costs. Well, remember, this is an introductory level game. However, remember, this map was done by Charlie Kibler, by the way, just so you know, to my specifications. we wanted it. If you look again, just like any trial, the map underneath it is meaning there's only two kinds of terrain. Well, there's Gettysburg, but there's only there's clear and there's defensible terrain. That's it. And people, if you play like I've played TSS, and an orchard +2, and this a woods is a +3, and the answer is I'm not sure where's that coming from. That's just like we're making that crap up. Okay, let's just be clear. Nobody's done an analysis of like how big a tree do you need to stop a bullet, or how does the guys, so formations in any kind of cluttered terrain, they have some stone walls around. I mean, there's all sorts of crap in these. These are farmer fields, and there's stone walls, and there's there's trees that are down already. It's a forest, so there's trees that are already down,
Just
like up on
just the roll of the land, even.
Yeah, and the detail to even to stylize it. So I chose early on that I felt like, I'm okay with the idea that something was defensible. That seems to be clear, but to have these very slight variations. And I remember when I did work with Rick Barber on Rebel Fury, he's going, well, what about shouldn't these be different? He was using all the movement point, and I'm saying, no, at a half-day scale, these guys are going to move until they run into somebody. If they're moving, going somewhere, they could cross. These battlefields aren't that big. I mean, Hexy, when you were in the Army, couldn't you walk a mile in about? If you had a half hour, could you walk a mile? I know the answer is yes.
Backwards, yeah.
Yeah,
think about it this way: how far did Longstreet march before he got onto the field? On the
20 miles. Law did the best. He won 27 miles. It's basically from Chambersburg to Gettysburg is like 17 miles.
Exactly. That's my point is, okay, bam, there you go. Even if that's in a full day, you divide that by 2. This map isn't, it might be 13 miles across, but I kind of doubt it.
No, each hex is 1 mile. So you can count the hexes, and miles are exactly the same.
It's pretty close then, but yeah.
Yeah. And by the way,
you can just cruise.
Yeah. If you're not being bothered, and remember in the Rebel Fury system, in the extended march, your 4 becomes an 8. So you get to go 8 hexes and 8 hexes, but you can move multiple times. So as long as there's, nobody is, time is I'm very big on variable time. So how much time you get relative to the other side is based on, who gets to where they need to be first. And once somebody locks in, they're sort of setting in stone, like what level of activity can occur in that turn. And so, you can move pretty far, but you could run out of moves for that half day. But there's always the other half day, right? Remember Longstreet, all those guys got from Chambersburg to the battle. So all of the guys from the First Corps at like in the wee hours of the morning camped within 4 miles of Gettysburg. So in this case, where the Heth piece is right now on the board, that's where on the night, like the wee hours of the morning of July 2nd is where Hood and McLaws were at that time on the morning of July 2nd, but like 2, 3 in the morning. That's where they were. And it took them to get from there to the right wing to line up for an attack until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the afternoon. So it would take you a whole turn, given how the Union moved, to get down. Where's Little Round Top? You're gonna have to bring it up a little bit, but you can see where Little Round Top is.
It's Little Round Top right here.
I think that might be, yes, that's Little Round Top. So for the Confederates to get to like 2 or 3 hexes to the west of that, is that guy has to get from up there to down there, and in the game that naturally occurs. It takes a whole turn more or less to get down there.
Yeah.
And that's why the attack takes place in the afternoon. But I don't make a distinction of what part of the afternoon, because most attacks, after 2 hours or 3 hours, most humans, and by the way, just for the record, it's, we were talking about the weather earlier, Hexy. This is the weather that they had on July 1st in 1863.
Correct.
And they're also wearing, in fact, the Confederates had a slight advantage because the Union are all wearing wool uniforms because they had a lot of sheep, but most of the Confederates are wearing something probably made out of cotton because that they had a lot of, but they didn't have a lot of wool. but they had a lot of cotton. So I think most of the they used to call it homespun, right? A lot of the guys are dressed in homespun, and homespun is cotton, not wool. So it's going to be lighter than wool, I would expect.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So that's interesting to see, because I just found it fascinating when I was playing this or just playing around with it, just how you could simulate this so easily. But then if I just move things around here a little bit, one of the things I was looking at is kind of this move, because right in here, Buford's really got this covered, pretty good. The one move I was playing with was, okay, well, I can try to get around here to the Mummersburg Road. Right?
Oh, go ahead. I'll tell you what to do. Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, because they can only move 4.
All right. So now bring up the first core to what would effectively be Oak Hill.
Okay. Let me show you what I did. I was like, okay, I'm going over here for Heath. I took Buford back the road and put him here.
Yeah, but you don't. But I've had to. So put Buford back.
Yeah.
Just take first core instead of going behind Buford. Just take him up to Oak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they can move the full 8 up there. And
all right. So now what?
Yeah, and well, what ultimately was coming down to is, Heath was still getting blocked. So even though you may think that you can get him, go around him like this, there's still enough maneuver that he is going to get himself out of position to do any sort of attack.
Oh, wait,
block.
There's a YouTube channel which we've talked about before called History Civil War Minute by Minute. That one.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot tell you now how many times I have seen his Gettysburg videos in, some of them multiple times, but what's interesting is he does this very reasonable, the same kind of analysis I would do, and I did do, confirming his, is Lee's only got, of his army of 9 divisions, he's got 5 divisions on this side of South Mountain. He's got Heth, he's got Pender coming down from Chambersburg, and he's got Ewell's. Johnson has moved back west, so he's only got 4 divisions east of the mountain, and the Union has, technically 4 corps in the area, which is like multiple. They're not this a corps in Limu's. So a piece in Rebel Fury is 2 brigades, basically. So a Union division, which was a 2-brigade thing, is typically 1 piece, but sometimes they had a 3rd brigade that was large, and if it goes over like 3,500 guys, it gets a 2nd piece. But the Confederates regularly, because most of their divisions are all 4-brigade to 5-brigade units, that's where they get 2. So in the game, the Union Corps, you've got 7 corps, but you've got 9 divisions. And it's about, and they've got some cavalry. So, so the Confederates have a little bit of a maneuver advantage in this game on purpose. I wanted them to have a maneuver advantage, and they've got some good star units and all that stuff. And, but ultimately, right now at this point in the battle in the morning, the Confederates are outnumbered.
Right.
I mean, there's just more Union guys in the area for a little while until Rhodes shows up in Pender.
What did Davis and Archer fielded how many men? Buford had 3,800 horse soldiers?
So Buford is probably just, let's call it 3,000 just to make it simple, but I don't think I think he had 2,900 or 2,800 troopers. Heth has got, think more in brigades, but Heth has got 4 brigades. He's got Archer and Davis, and behind him he's got, Pettigrew and Brockenbrough. So and now at this scale it's 1 piece, but in Rebel Fury it's 2 pieces. So what ends up happening is you've got I would say each of those brigades is about I would say 2 brigades for the Confederates, about 3,000. I think it was 3,200 Confederate infantry at the very, very beginning versus 2,800 cavalry, I think, at the very, very beginning of this engagement.
And I think Pettigrew's brigade was the largest brigade in the Army of Northern Virginia. He probably outnumbered the cavalry just by himself.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is absolutely true. But he doesn't come into the second piece.
Right.
But the overall division is reasonably balanced relative to the other ones because Brock, and what's interesting is, and we're going to talk about intelligence and Gettysburg later, but at least Alan and I have it cooked up to do so. But
Yeah.
But Pettigrew, remember, this is July 1st, but yesterday on June 30th, Pettigrew went down this road and he bounced into, the same cavalry. And he was like, he could tell right away that this was not some militia unit. This was like real cavalry. And he was told, don't bring on a general engagement. So following orders, remember, Pettigrew was not a professional military officer. He didn't go to West Point and all that. And so he pulls back and he tells A.P. Hill and Heth was there that the Union Army is over there. Those are federal cavalry. That's not militia cavalry. And A.P. Hill goes, look, you're a nice guy, but you're green behind the ears and you don't really have. And Pettigrew had been around a little bit. He knew what he was looking at. So Pettigrew then goes and gets one of his staff officers is a good friend of A.P. Hill's. I forget his name is Captain somebody or other. And they bring Captain somebody or other over to talk to Hill. And he tells Hill, because they figured, this is somebody Hill trusts. And he says, no, that's federal cavalry. And Hill goes, I don't think so. You guys are exaggerating. I don't know why they were so insistent that he was wrong. And Hill at some point finally says, you know what? I hope it is federal cavalry, because I think he realized he was wrong, but he didn't want to admit it in front of his subordinates. And so that's when Heth goes, can I do a major reconnaissance, they call it reconnaissance and force, but he went looking for trouble. He had 2 brigades. I mean, Heth's going down the road with 2 brigades in the lead. And that's why he had the artillery, because he felt that if I have artillery with me, as soon as I see these federal cavalry, I'll just start firing some cannon at them and they'll run away. And the next thing he knows is artillery is fighting with Tidball in an artillery duel. And he realizes that this is not work. They're not running away. These guys are not running. And now he's got to deploy into battle. And by the way, I checked all this. It took Archer and Davis 90 minutes to get from column into line on that morning. 90 minutes. That's how long it doesn't happen fast.
Damn.
That's real.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that most tactical games have that happen way faster than that.
Yeah, it's a turn.
Yeah, it's one turn, which is usually like an hour, but it took them 90 minutes just to get into column, get from column into line, and then they had to start moving forward. That just 90 minutes just to get lined up. Forget about that they did anything. Now the next, now it takes them, they can only advance so fast in line now, right? They don't go as fast. And by that point, you've got Cutler and Meredith are showing up, so it's game on.
Yeah, they started deploying down in.
And that 90 minutes. And so going back to the Nordics question, how do you show the delaying action? Well, the ZOI is what handles all that. In other words, you have to imagine that at the grand tactical level, these guys are moving up and all of a sudden there's vedettes and there's artillery shooting at them and they go, oh, wait a minute. And now they deploy into line. And now they can still keep going, but now they're not moving. They're not doing dramatic maneuvers on the battlefield. They're going to be moving 1 hex a turn, 1 hex a move. And you can move as many times as you want, but they're going to run into somebody like Buford at this point. And that's the situation that's what's on the map they're showing is exactly what it looks like at the end. Well, other than Howard would be, you could have Howard left a von Steinwehr's division, I believe, stayed on the hill.
Yeah.
Shores and Barlow went forward. But remember, this is at a core level, so you don't get – so the fact is, because of the zone of control and ZOI, that simulates the frontage of the 11th Corps north of the town.
Right. Right.
And that's how it works. And but again, look, guys, we all we grew up on crunchy, intricate design games. TSS was certainly one of the first. Actually, I played La Bataille de la Moscova first. So, and that's what Berg was inspired by when I met him at Origins. Berg did TSS because he saw Bataille de la Moscova, by the way. which is a Larry Groves design, and that was like, the Marshallate, I guess they called themselves for a while, and then it became Clash of Arms. Eventually got the IP, but that's why Berg did it. When I met him that first time at 3:00 in the morning on Sunday, when he showed up, it's the first time I ever met him, I was talking to him about this game we've been playing for 48 hours at the first Origins, and then he does TSS, and I knew him, and he asked me to come play test with Gon's the Pickett's Charge thing. That's how my relationship with Berg started. It was at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah.
Well, no, this is great because this kind of gives kind of an idea, the genesis of what the game.
So what happened here was when I do a game, I have I have like my pros and cons list, like and I did that before it ever got published. But as I wanted to do it, then of course Roger, this game was very successful for Roger. Everybody liked, it was a real introductory level game. It's got 19 pieces, by the way. But I put a placeholder which pissed me off. Berdan's Sharpshooters is in the game, and I had this idea that eventually I'd want to have smaller units that I could chuck out there to do stuff. So I put Berdan's in there so I can experiment. So I didn't fully develop the idea here, but it was here. And of course, the HQ, the whole HQ thing to keep it from being, Panzer chess, that keeps, the reality of what you could do maneuver wise was within range of the HQ. But when I did Waterloo, I expanded the HQ to battle, the battle mode side, where you're picking your ground and you have less range, and detachments became much more robust in the system. And then when I went to Rebel Fury, the only thing that really changed was I put a much more Civil War assault-oriented combat system. But that was the evolution of Rebel Fury. And then going forward, we have you guys. I know that Hexy's got a copy. You guys got a copy. You guys play tested this thing.
Oh yeah, yep. No, I was just kind of curious because this one only has the one, what I would call detachment now. Breeden's Sharpshooters, and I just kind of wondered what the genesis was out. But that was, from what you're saying, it's just a matter of just having a unit to be able to put out there as an
extra zone of control. It was an extra zone of control because, it was like a fudge factor for the fact that a Union Corps is bigger than a division-ish. A Union Corps would typically be 10,000 to 10,000 guys, 11,000 guys, because they would have two divisions, sometimes two divisions, but one of them was a large division. It just depended. 6th Corps was unusual. It was a little bit bigger than the other ones. They score.
Yeah, 6th Corps was always their biggest.
It's 1-0 us, right? Oh yeah, the USA scored. Good. I missed that. USA.
You don't want to do the Norwegian row there that they were doing.
I rowed crew in college. I did plenty of rowing.
No, that's interesting. I just want to see how that fits in, and that kind of makes sense to me as well. Speaking, you mentioned about the attack procedure. So that was another thing that I noticed is quite a bit different in Rebel Fury and Army of Potomac. And you said something in there, and I wondered maybe that's the reason why it changed so much, because in this it's there's no table. We have the attack table in Rebel Fury and Army of the Potomac, but in here it's just basically comparing dice rolls and a few modifiers and things like that. So I kind of wondered what was the big reason for the change. You mentioned something about.
Well, this was an introductory level game, so I purposefully, from the very get-go, I remember my lovely wife was one of the play testers, and when she says I don't do math, she said that to me, and I said that's fine. So the game doesn't have a combat results table of any kind, and I kept that idea with Waterloo because it seemed to work pretty well. Waterloo also introduced Napoleonic cavalry, which was the big change there, which is not present in Rebel Fury at all. It's only in Waterloo. And I will be doing a Napoleonic series, so you'll see more of a Waterloo, version coming out at some point, going down that path. at some point. But going back to this, but when I was doing, so sometimes when you design, you realize that, I some people like the just straight dice roll system, which is fine. It works perfectly well. And I had the artillery, and because of when I was a kid, I read this. Did any of you guys read the book Guns of Gettysburg?
Oh yes, Guns of Gettysburg. Yes,
Old book. I read it, and so the whole artillery duel thing was something that is very, and which is, by the way, in many ways almost unique to Gettysburg. Very few Civil War battlefields had, there's, First Manassas a little bit, this one, but very few battlefields had sort of like that open range, lots of guns shooting at each other in counter battery fire. Antietam has a little bit of that, because of the big Parrott guns that were, lobbing shells in from across the river, which are in fact in the Lee moves north, by the way. They reduce Confederate defensive. When you put the marker down, it reduces their defensive fire by 1. Goes from 4 to 3.
Oh, that's awesome.
Huh?
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, they had what was it? Was there 8 of them? They had these 10 and 20 pound Parrots up by Pry House, and so I got everything. Again, the key is to have you experience in any one of the battles I do in the series. All the details are there. It's just I don't spend a lot of fussing around with them. You're not rolling 28 dice to see if somebody gets to move or not. It's all built into a different kind of system.
Yeah, you're focused on the strategy, not necessarily the.
And to be clear, I want you to focus on in the combat the risk calculus. When do you feel like remember if you lose more than 2 guys in a turn, anything after 2 is dead. And so that's where your risk calculus goes. Can I pull this off? I got 2 guys, or the other guy can counterattack if he still hasn't passed yet. Yep. So that's where the tension in the game comes on the combat side, as your assaults should only work mathematically if you do it right about 1 in 3, which is the historical average that one of the things everybody talks about AI and all this bullshit. I'm sure Texas, you probably know more about it than any of us here. But my son, does that for a living, and we got it's Anthropic. Claude is the one I use, and he wrote this thing where we're reading the official records of the rebellion, and we're pulling out all the assaults from all the records. So we've already done. So I've got and when I get as soon as I can do this in, I'm going to spend some time looking at. I have a spreadsheet that covers the Wilderness and Spotsylvania Courthouse, which is like 3,000. It's like over 3,000 pages of reports. Claude has read it using my keywords and pulled out 500 assaults that occurred, at least according to Claude. But I have to go through and validate each one that it did what I want. It did what I asked it to do, probably, but is it doing what I wanted to do? Those are different questions. But I have to go through it line by line with the book in my hand and see is that what I was looking for? Or is that a bad, that one? We have to tell the bad AI do this now, that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of real, everybody goes about. I love when guys come online, in any game, not even just mine, goes, this CRT is a hot mess, and you go, okay, I hear you saying that, but do you have any knowledge that would, or even data that would suggest that what you're saying is just not you, just bumping something out your butt?
I find most of them just look at the CRT. They don't even play the game or roll any dice, and they're like, "This jacked up."
Cool.
100%. And long ago I would respond to that and say, "Well, here's this, that, and the other thing," and then you get back, "Well, it doesn't feel right," and I go, "Like, who gives a shit what you feel like?"
What did you like when you were at the Civil War Facebook commenter? Why don't you tell me?
Yeah, and so I now just sort of ignore that stuff. But
Well, we've got real quick. I'm going to take time out of there. We got a new guest. Hey, Todd, how you doing? Wave, say hello.
Hey, Todd.
Buddy.
Hey, buddies.
Todd, what do you got on the table there?
I got an attack on Oak Ridge, July 1st, happening right now on July 1st.
Hey, good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Go. There we go. Yep.
You didn't even call me, dude.
I didn't, dude.
Oh God. I feel
Welcome to the conversation. All right. Well, this has been cool. Just kind of talking about the old Gettysburg, but I think it's about time to pivot a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Well, I can leave the Vassal up. It doesn't matter. It's on this. It's over here. It's not.
Yeah.
in the way.
Let's talk about what's coming down the road, literally and figuratively, for Gettysburg.
So remember, this is a 1 mile per hex scale.
Yep.
Now, and by the way, the map's only 11 by 17. That was also, remember, it's going in a magazine, and you fold it like you would a piece of paper, right? So that's part of game design. Sometimes is you have to,
This one, I got the map right here. There it is.
Yeah. It's components matter, and so I always intended for it to be easy to produce for him. 19 counters, a map and a booklet. But the map is going to be folds down to go right in the magazine without any effort.
Yep. So now with the new one, you're expanding off of this quite a bit.
Remember, the new one is 22 by 34. It's the expansion. It's basically the exact same. Hexy, you guys played Cold Harbor, right? And you played Fair Oaks and all that. So a regular 22 by 34-inch map is what you're going to see now, which is in Lemu's North, there are 8. Okay, I just want to be clear. I'm 72. I've lost my mind. I want to be clear about that part as we start this conversation. So I always wanted the big picture. So it is 2 by 4 maps, which means that it's 6. 3 plus 3 is 6, right? And 2 times 4 is 8. So 8 times 6 is Hexy. How much is 8 times 6?
That would be 48.
Good
So
job.
the Lemu's North maps are 48 square feet.
Wow.
Now, this is just one of them. Now, so this is map B, which would be the upper right map of 8 maps. And Sharpsburg would be, if you think about 2 columns of A, C, E, G, and B, D, you have F, and H. In the left column, the E map, which is 2 down from this and across, is Sharpsburg. That map is connected to it there. So it's all in one piece. And this is the B map. So I think so let me just describe what you're looking at. So do you have any way to put a mark on it from where you are? Like you can put
Let me see if I can.
Well, I want you to show everybody where Gettysburg. I mean, I can see Gettysburg, but you can see Gettysburg. It's kind of right where his cursor is. That's Gettysburg. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's bad. Whatever that is.
I highlighted all.
It highlighted everything but Gettysburg.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Stop that. Maybe you close it and open it again without saving.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, Gettysburg is, if you think about the center of the map, it's about 4 hexes from the center.
I'll just zoom in on it a little bit.
In the 4 o'clock direction.
It's right there, the black check to the side.
Yeah. And Cemetery Hill is right below it. That's just
That's
yeah.
so
Make
good.
that stop. Make it go away. Stop it.
It just-
You heard me, Alan? Don't save. Do not save.
Weather chart.
Yeah. Don't save that. Ooh, that was terrible. Yeah, don't do that. Obviously, it's able to pick out the elements of the map. That's interesting. I guess it could see the levels, whatever program you use. Okay, so if you go from the where you can see where Gettysburg and we'll bring it up in a minute, but if you go in the 10 o'clock direction, that road goes all the way into the South Mountain. That's the Cashtown Gap, and map A has Chambersburg on it. The Chambersburg, that's the Cashtown Gap, but it's that road goes to Chambersburg. And if you play with the A and B map, that road connects all the way back to Chambersburg. But you'll note that in the upper right, the entire Eastern Cavalry Field is showing. Don't do that. Is already on the map, and
That's over here.
And if you go down. I can see it. If you go down, is Lemu's are going to be both the same? Yeah, all the way to yes, it's a 62-63 campaigns. Yes, there was and then the words cut off, so I don't know what the extra comment is. So if you look now, you see where so if you go from Gettysburg and you head down like in the 4 o'clock directions towards the lower right corner. You see right where you are there?
Two taverns.
That's two taverns. That's where the 12th Corps with Slocum was just sitting the whole time and didn't move until late in the afternoon on the first day. So you could see that he's already on the map, and Taneytown and Emmitsburg are just below this. You know, the map A, you see, the map D. If map D was on, Emmitsburg and Taneytown are just like 8 or 9 hexes south of the edge of the map, because it's basically, it's like 17 miles from Taneytown to Gettysburg. So if every 2 hexes is a mile, you got about another 8 or 9 hexes, and you're already, and you can see all that, and that's where Meade's headquarters is and all that kind of jazz. So, and then the York, the Hanover Road is coming, so the perspective of the battle is you're getting a lot more. And what's more important is this game. Look, I know, people who are into this thing, what has fascinated me about the battle is not the battle fascinates me, but what happened after the battle. So you can see the Fairfield Road. So Lee did not retreat back to Chambersburg. He went to Fairfield, and Fairfield is on this map, I believe. The road goes off to the, there it is. So,
Jeff, is your house on here?
No, his house is, yes, on map G. You're near Falling.
He's in Falling Waters.
Yeah, Falling Waters is on map G. Yes.
Sorry, I apologize. That just hit me and I got all excited.
Yeah, he is. So he's on map G. He's on the bottom left map of the 8 maps.
Did you change the name to Hexy's house or Jeff Hexy or something?
We do have, in a hidden ghost shrouded way in the layers, it does say Hexy's house somewhere.
Perfect.
Anyway, so when you play this, the campaign, and there are multiple campaign scenarios, and I can describe that. The retreat, technically, you go off the way they did historically, off that edge of the map, and you get onto where that would be map A, B. So you end up going from here onto map C, which is the map below A on the left column of maps, and that's the Cumberland. And the left set of maps is the Cumberland Valley, which is Lee's line of communication.
So Todd, you can actually use this book now to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can use that for this too. Yeah,
exactly. You'll be able to do the pre and post.
The pre and post stuff. Yeah.
So I go back, and so what happens, and I've been working. That's what I've been working on. So all of you, to include every other gamer, is smarter than me when it comes to like fooling me. So I'll write a rule, and you guys go, "Oh, I know how I get around that rule," because you guys are all smarter than me. So what I've got is, when Lee, in the big feet, when you go from when Lee is north of the Potomac, he cannot get ammunition replenishment like you can in in Army of the Potomac. Lee, as he's falling back on Richmond, everybody can get ammunition replenishment in Army of the Potomac. In the Gettysburg campaign, when Lee is north of the Potomac, he cannot get artillery ammunition. So if you've got 19 shots, whereas the Union is getting ammo replenishment, when they get low, they can get ammo replenishment from Westminster within a day or so. So the Union has technically unlimited ammunition, just not easily gettable if you use it too quickly. But Lee is hard. And so what happens is when Lee gets below, gets 3 or less ammunition left on his side, he can no longer use artillery to attack. He can use it to defend, but he can't attack. And that changes the entire, combat system mathematics on its head. And if Lee is in that situation and he doesn't get his army off, south of the Potomac at the end of the scenario, it's a Union strategic victory. So he's got to. So I'm trying to create the incentive for the Rebs to leave if they haven't achieved a strategic victory by fighting the Battle of Gettysburg and whatever. At some point they got to leave. And that's part of the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's one thing that really intrigues me is being able to play around Gettysburg. You got most of your games like A Most Fearful Sacrifice, like Three Dog, and everything else, which covers. Wish I could get my mouse moving.
There are probably easily a dozen places that could be Gettysburg on those maps, because, finding a crossroads with defensible terrain near it, there are a lot of places like that on the 8 maps. So
Right.
Gettysburg can occur in Gettysburg, but it's not mandated in any. There's no special rule that says you have to fight. You have to go to Gettysburg. There's
Right.
no such rule. I do have rules for. So one of Lee's big maneuvers, which is a big deal in the campaign scenario, is you get so each side is accumulating victory points every turn for staying to their military objectives. So the Union is getting 4 victory points a turn as long as they're between Lee and Washington and Baltimore. So if Lee can get around, they stop accumulating those points. Lee is getting 2 victory points a turn for maintaining a reasonable sized force in the Cumberland Valley because he's sucking up logistics. He's doing logistic, sourcing or whatever you want to call it, foraging. And he gets 2 points if he has troops that are off the map to the east, because the whole reason, and again, remember this all comes out of his actual report that he wrote in January 20th of 1864. He wrote out a lengthy report of his Battle of Gettysburg, and which is supported by the other core things. There's obviously some spin on some of these things, but there's other pieces of data that sort of get you down to the right place. And he's very clear that he sent Ewell east of the mountains to keep the Army of the Potomac east of the mountains. Otherwise, his vulnerable supply line back to the valley would be cut, and then he didn't want that. So Ewell's move was both to threaten Harrisburg to keep the Army of the Potomac from coming in behind him. And in fact, Hooker's plan before he got fired, he thought when Lee went up the Cumberland Valley that he had him to rights. He was going to basically, this is how Hooker and Halleck hated each other. And, and Hooker's idea, and that's why the 12th Corps was at Leesburg, he wanted control of the Harpers Valley garrison. And the 12th Corps was supposed to move to Harper's Ferry, absorb, I guess it changed from like Milroy to French to, there was multiple guys, but Milroy, I think, was the main one at that point. The 12th Corps Milroy were then to move from Harper's Ferry and knock out, and by the way, the bridge at Falling River, right? Falling Waters was destroyed by a Union cavalry raid, so it was very poorly guarded. So this corps, augmented corps, was supposed to capture Williamsport and Falling Water and take those locations. So they basically bottle up Lee's retreat route, and then he was going to basically beat him up, and he'd have nowhere to go and destroy his army. That was Hooker's plan, and you can do that, and you can try that in the game, but there's just so many permutations, and I'm still trying to work all that out. And well, we're going to do a lot of testing, but I suspect that all the tricks in the book will come out at some point, and hopefully I've gotten them all nailed down. But it's got so many possibilities; it boggles the mind, actually.
Well, yeah, Jeff, I'm curious. Are you adding any? I guess the easiest way would be, I don't want to say special rules, but I mean, are you adding any different functionality outside of the core rules to this game box?
No. There are little details to make it interesting from a historical perspective, on various scenarios, but there are no, so when I design, I'm thinking of psychological history and kinetic history. So the who, what, when, where, and how is the core system. You got a map, you got the order of battle, how they move, and how much ammunition, replenishment, all that kind of crap. But psychologically, I handle that through the victory. So the victory conditions have a lot of nuance to them, is how I get you to behave, at least within the mindset of Meade and Lee. But the core system has no. Now, I do have little details like we already have, the core system has heavy artillery, right? So at Antietam, the Union does have a heavy artillery battery of Parrott guns firing into the battlefield, like they did in that particular battle. So that's in there.
So without giving away anything with the theater rules that you're introducing. Is that just an extension of the campaign rules, which are part of the battle?
Well, the answer is no, because it's at a different. So the theater game is the map goes from like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, down to Petersburg, Virginia. It's 8 miles per hex, so it's at a whole different scale. I'm doing what I did. You guys ever see my game Gulf Strike?
Yes. Yep.
So I'm using the Gulf Strike 2 level. So the campaign maps are like, they're at 8 miles a hex, but there's like a border that shows you where the maps are.
Yep.
And so when you're on the theater map, when your piece gets to the transition between the two map scales, you do the Drink Me Alice in Wonderland thing, and all of a sudden you're on the Grand Tactical maps.
Okay.
Now there is a standalone. You can play the 8 mile per hex standalone, but and the theater, by the way, has its own combat system, which I believe, and I've worked it out, where it reasonably simulates multiple assaults at the Grand Tactical level at that scale. Because remember, 8 miles a hex, a map is 4 theater hexes, basically, right?
Right.
Because it's 8 miles, that's 16, and 16 is 32, which is like 34. And so it's like a 2x2, it's like 2 by 1.5. But regardless, a theater map, it's like, think of it as 4 theater map scales as 1 map at this scale, And so, but when you go into this scale, you go back to the counters. But when you're on the theater game, for a short while, you could hide your main army concentration, except that cavalry can get through. There's cavalry probes, using the stratego block thing, where you're using blocks until you get into the campaign thing. But what's interesting to me is everybody talks about, Lee, Stuart's cavalry raid gets all the press, and a lot of people think that that's why Lee lost the battle and all this kind of jazz. And I think that's all hogwash, quite frankly.
Lee had Jenkins' cavalry with him.
Well, more than that, he had Jenkins, Robertson, and Jones, and Imboden.
Never brought forward,
Yeah, he had 4 cavalry brigades, and you could say, well, and people go, well, they're not as good as the 3 that were with Stuart. And the answer is, yeah, but they were a lot better than like Harrison with a spyglass.
Yes.
Stuart's priority was to screen the mountains so that, Lee's army could move without the Union army picking up where they were. So if you ask me, Stuart wandering off over into freaking Maryland and Pennsylvania, that probably distracted the Yanks even more, you would think.
Well, there's 2 things. So first of all, I actually have read the actual order, and Lee and Longstreet approved him going around the Union Army. So just to be clear, Stuart wasn't off the reservation. He was given permission by Lee and Longstreet to do that, because Longstreet's comment was, if all he did was stay on the right side of the army, the Union would know where the army was just by the fact that, remember, if you're screening me from seeing what's on the other side of the screen, I know there's something on the other side of the screen, right? So you're not hiding, you're hiding who is exactly on the other side of the screen, but you're not stopping me. I know where you are. They just don't know exactly where you are.
Well, the other thing is he's pulling, the Union's going to have to counter that by pulling their cavalry to go after him.
Right.
So they can't probe to figure out where they are, and that's why Buford was essentially.
But Hexy, you asked a question. So the core rules aren't changed, but the campaign rules have a new section called Cautious HQ. So a Cautious HQ could be like McClellan is in Antietam, or
stupid,
or if your communications are interrupted to your information source. So when Stuart is between Meade and Washington, Meade temporarily becomes a Cautious HQ, which means he more or less is trying to move in battle formation with not maneuver formation up the map. So he slows down a great deal because he doesn't know, his communication. So Stuart's raid actually has a benefit that's well documented. And that's one of the reasons why you might do it in the game. You don't have to, but you might do it in the game.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say this. I don't think that, 2 things. One, I don't think that Marsh Robert was at top of his game in July of 1863. I think the plan was phenomenal, but I don't think he was top of his game. And 2, I don't know where this has come from, but I think Meade, with his orders, once the decision was made, okay, Gettysburg is the joint, I think he responded very well.
I want to first say that I don't think I basically agree with that. My article that you actually have now, which is in the back of that book I sent you, covers this in some detail. Basically, I believe that Lee was handling his intelligence like Washington did. It was all going through him, and he trusted Stuart, but he never asked. He had 4 cavalry brigades, and Robertson and Jones. Robertson was in charge. Never lost track of Robertson and Jones were under orders that when the Union Army goes north of Potomac, you're supposed to tell me about it. And he either never figured it out, didn't try to figure it out, and he never told Lee. So what happens in the game is on July 1st, on June 30th, Lee finally figures out, like, look, the Union Army, Harrison tells him what's going on. So Lee sends orders down to Robertson and Jones, says, get up here. And so on July 1st in the campaign game, Robertson and Jones show up at Gettysburg, although, again, working, the magic of players. If the players try to cut in behind Lee, Robertson and Jones will show up earlier. That they'll now know that he's north of the Potomac. They're going to start closing on the army. So there's a little bit of a, seesaw thing going on based on what the players could do.
This is Bev Robertson and is it Grumble Jones? Is he the
Yeah.
And Bev Robertson was not, from what I've read a ton about it, but he was very efficient.
The answer was he was, but he was not an initiative guy. There's a difference between being competent. So as long as Stuart's giving him, telling him what to do, he's fine. And in fact, he did very well earlier in the Antietam campaign. He was the guy that they sent around after Ox Hill to go, threaten the defenses of Washington just to kind of divert them as they crossed them into Maryland. So he wasn't an idiot. I mean, he performed very poorly in this case, and Lee mismanaged his cavalry assets. He had plenty of cavalry, and more importantly, Lee on June 28th on June 30th, Lee knew that the Army of the Potomac was at Taneytown and Emmitsburg. He knew that. And in that period of time, anytime, and remember there's latency, there's information latency. So he knew on June 30th that the Union had corps. You may not have known exactly which ones, but they had large concentration of corps within 1 day's march of Gettysburg. He already knew that on June 30th. So the fact that he ignored that possibility doesn't make any sense to me.
I think if somebody sat down and just took a notepad and started making a column of screw ups at Gettysburg, you could go through an entire freaking stenopad.
Well, more importantly, I got books on it. I mean, I've literally read for this. Well, first off, some of these books I read my whole life, and the cool part is I had some of these books I hadn't touched in decades. I got to reread them all. So Coddington, Sears, Guelzo I read more recently. There's another.
Fans.
Fans. Oh yeah, Fans, and Fans has 2 books. He's got First Day, and he's got Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill, which is a great book.
A good one. Yeah.
I venture, Nord, I'm going to tell you, Hancock did screw up at Gettysburg on the first day.
Could be. What do you think that?
Because he didn't have the balls to tell Howard, "Hey, buddy, I'm sorry, but I've been sitting here. I'm in charge." Instead, there
was. By the way, there's a whole thing about in Coddington around Slocum. Slocum was the senior guy from the way that they track that kind of stuff, and when he showed up, he thought he was under Hancock's orders, and Hancock said, "Oh no, you got an order from me. You're in charge now." So Slocum was like, he was not such a but I had to work all. So when you asked me about special rules, the Union arrival, some of the there's the non-sandbox version, right? The actual battle scenarios. The 12th Corps can't move until the Confederates kind of get near Gettysburg.
Is this the Slocum being hateful rule?
Yeah,
I don't know about that, but it is the
toddler.
Well, you had the problem. There was a problem that when Reynolds was in charge of the 1st, 3rd, and 11th Corps, he was the wing commander, and the 12th Corps was still technically under Meade. So I'm simulating the fact that you got two, just like in any situation, you got two command chains. And when Howard calls over to Slocum and says, "Hey, I could kind of use some help," Slocum didn't really get all that energized. And he claims he didn't hear the battle 5 miles away. And at some point, the soldiers are saying, "I think we can hear something." And they send his aide up to a hill, and he goes, "Oh yeah, there's a battle. I can see smoke. I can hear cannonade. I can see I hear gunfire. There's a battle over there." So that was the first time, and everybody's talking about acoustic, dead zones and all this crap.
Well,
But the reality is, Slocum just didn't want to go.
he also kind of didn't send him up the Baltimore Pike. Williams actually went up towards the York and went up through Hanover.
Well, there was a little bit. They sent Geary. They had Geary cut over to the Hanover Road, and and by the way, accidentally that may have saved the Union from an attack on late in the first day, because he was seen by. Remember that one thing that's also missed by people. Every one of these hexes, on a side, there are like a couple of guys. There are scouts. This guy was Captain Ligge, Lige, was the head, Army of the Potomac, Army of Northern Virginia scoutmaster, right? I don't know, like the Cub Scouts, but he had a whole unit of scouts, and they were guys. There's always like one or two guys riding down every road, just looking around. If they see something, they ride back and say, "Hey, there's guys coming down that road." So there's a lot more basic information going on that is not usually simulated in the game, but these guys know where they are to each other. So what happened was the 12th Corps, Geary, was it Williams or Geary? I think it was
Geary.
Geary cuts over on a shitty road up to the Hanover Road from the Baltimore Pike, which is he was moving down.
Up over
and one of Ligge, and they were trying to come in on the flank of the Confederates to do them some harm.
Yep.
And then he gets word that the Confederates have already taken Gettysburg, and so they may be isolated, and he came back. But while he was over on the Hanover Pike, he got seen. And then Early had to send Gordon and Hayes down the road to say, "Hey, is there anybody coming down that on my flank?" And so as they were trying to organize this assault, and Early, and this goes back to the whole, could they have taken Cemetery Hill on the first day? Early went to Lee. He was able to put together about 6,000 or 7,000 guys, fresh troops that he had available. And he was just looking to see, can I get any help from Anderson or anybody in Hill's Corps? And Lee personally told him, "No, you can't have anybody." So Lee squashed like any initiative that Early was trying to put together for an assault. And then this Geary thing happened. So a couple of his guys are kind of distracted for a little while, looking to see if anybody's coming down the road. And by that time, multiple hours have gone by. Now it's gone from, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's now like almost 8 o'clock. And now it's getting dark. And then they just decided to call the whole thing off. But so whatever happened in the post-war, going after Ewell and not A.P. Hill. But at the end of the day, Lee screwed that up. I mean, again, to your point, Lee's problem, and I want to be fair, Lee's problem was he's deep in enemy territory. He doesn't have enough information about where he knows the Union Army's over there, right? He got, and they're rushing towards the battlefield. He's got that also. His scouts are telling him that. But he can't tell, and he doesn't have Longstreet up yet. That's the thing that keeps bothering him. He doesn't have Longstreet. He doesn't have his whole army together. He doesn't want to get defeated in detail. And so he's naturally cautious, right? Because if he loses up here, he can lose the whole army and the war. So he's got that on his shoulders, which, again, risk calculus, right? He's got a different risk calculus than we have now, because we're looking back on it like, Monday morning quarterbacks going, "Oh, he could have done this, he could have done that," but he's got big issues to worry about. If he's got a downside risk issue that he's got to examine at all times.
I mean, I can think of small scale battlefield decision making and how tough that is. I can't imagine what at that. I will say this: at one time, I did get a chance, and it was just a training event, but I did get the opportunity to control evac, medevac, and combat rotary aircraft in a simulation. There was probably 5,000 troops on the ground, and all I was doing was controlling the birds coming in and out. That was that was not easy. So I can't imagine what that level of command was. And like you say, Lee was taking a lot of it on by himself. So,
And again, this is the case where he just doesn't know what he knows what the Union Army is now. He's been fighting the battle for a whole day, so he's got that part figured out. But he also knows he's only fought. Remember, they got prisoners at this point, so he knows which corps he's seen. Right? He knows that he has seen three Union Corps and cavalry to this point, and he knows there's 7 corps. So he goes, where are the other 4? And he's already getting hints that 2 of them are already in the vicinity. So now he doesn't know how many fresh troops do they have back there. He knows there's 4 corps, but he doesn't know where 5th Corps is. He doesn't know where 6th Corps is exactly, other than they're coming up. And he doesn't have Longstreet with him. So he's saying to himself, I could be outnumbered here very quick. I don't know if I've got more guys or less guys than they have right now, and they're on the high ground. So he's got, like I said, he's got a lot of plates to keep spinning, and it's getting late. And by the way, now it's getting late. So I believe sunset at this time of year, they didn't have daylight savings time in 1863.
right.
So I think 8:30 is dark, not dusk.
I think 7:30 is because it'd be an hour earlier.
I think it's 7:30. So it's basically getting to be pitch black by this point. And, night assaults into ground where you don't know how many guys there are there and everything else is not something that they would normally. Now, a Stonewall Jackson, that's what, if you ever listen to Shelby Foote's given some interviews, and Shelby, you've all heard Shelby, you know who Shelby Foote is. And he goes, anybody who tells you they think they know what's in Lee's mind is just making it up. He said, no, I don't know. Nobody knows what was in Lee's mind. So we can only conjecture. But what he was saying was that if Jackson had been there, he might have put together that assault without ever asking. They might have gotten to Cemetery Hill, but Cemetery Hill was not undefended. The Union, by 5:30, the Union had 20,000 troops on those positions, and by evening they had 27,000 guys. So they were they basically had as many guys as the Confederates had.
Well, the other thing is they had already held it, as you said when we were playing the other game. They left one division up there to start digging in, so they were already dug in with artillery and stuff when the troops that were broken.
Oh yeah, and this is interesting. Can you bring up that B map for a second and go really tight on Gettysburg itself? Yep. I want to show you something.
I keep thinking too that early. I mean, okay, Rhodes's troops they just weren't all that. But early had gotten, Gordon was beat up already because he was the first to engage.
Yeah.
And then the only other, Smith was off and about doing something else. Avery or the Hayes's Louisiana Tigers. That was really, if you ask me, that's all that they had.
Well, like I said, Early, according to Coddington, Early had cobbled together with Hayes and Gordon and some other guys he had, and Smith, and one of the brigades from Rhodes is that he had 7,000 guys pulled together, which is 2 divisions basically. So he had pulled together a 2-division sized assault force to go at and that's when he talked to Lee about getting some more guys to hit him from another side. So one of the things that's very interesting, so you can see Gettysburg, and then you see the first one, there's a hill there, and then the next one says Cemetery Hill. Both of those hexes are actually Cemetery Hill. The cemetery is that dot on the hex zone. And it's in the rules. You guys have, I put an FPO, 4-position only picture, but it's using the Great Battles of the American Civil War maps that you guys have. Cemetery Hill is extraordinarily long. It's a deep position for putting artillery. That's what made it such a good position. So we show it as 2 hexes, basically. So Cemetery Hill is those 2 hexes. Then you're going down Cemetery Ridge
right here.
And then if you go a little further south, you see there's an open space, there's a clear space, and then you're getting down into the round tops, and you see where Devil's Den is. So basically, Sickles is down there, and he advances to the Peach Orchard, which is 2 hexes, like in the 10 o'clock direction. You see the Peach Orchard? And the thing about the Peach Orchard is it's called Hook's Ridge. is the actual name of the position. And a lot of games don't make enough of that. That is a defensive position from a certain direction, but it is a ridge there called Hook's Ridge. And so, we've done a lot of work on, and then of course you've got Culp's Hill is adjacent to Cemetery Hill, and you got Wolves Hill and Benner's Hill and all that stuff. But if the Union's not careful, if the Confederates can get up on Culp's Hill, they're in good shape to outflank the whole position. So you can do all the historical stuff. And the real thing that, Early was thinking about is if Cemetery Hill was too tough, they felt that Culp's Hill was unoccupied, which is true. And if the Rebs can get in there on day one, the whole Union position doesn't work anymore.
Well, I know we've all seen it. That Culp's Hill terrain is a freaking nightmare.
It is, but it is 30 feet higher than Cemetery Hill.
Yep.
Well, that and the East Cemetery Hill, that's just nothing but a freaking killing funnel right there. I can't see Early in them.
No, but the point is, once they got to Culp's Hill, they now can they hold the position. They don't have to do anything. Remember, they got to where they want to go. So now the guys on Cemetery Hill what are they going to do?
Right.
If that were to happen, remember, this is Rebel Fury. The Union guys are stuck with attacking to get Culp's Hill back.
Right.
Otherwise, their position's turned.
That
Speaking of
happened.
the devil, there's the
Body in
TGP.
my game of what do you call it? Of Most Fearful Sacrifice. We got Todd. Was it Early? Who did we get on Culp's Hill?
It was earlier Rhodes. I think it was Early.
I think it was Early.
Yeah, it was early.
And after some infantry attacks, we kind of resolved to, okay, we're just going to surround them and pound the living daylights out of them with artillery. And that's how we wound up having to pull them off, because we took all the reinforcements that were coming in and just hemmed them in, and then spent several turns just blasting them until finally we could just kind of waltz in with decent, combat. That was rough.
So the way that a Grand Tactical level handles it, if you get a Confederate division onto Culp's Hill that has basically artillery support, they're going to be a bitch to get off of there.
Exactly.
And I don't have to do anything. You're blasting them as at a tactical level. You're shooting artillery. But if I'm holding that ground, Cemetery Hill is more or less surrounded, and you can't go through zones of control. So you got to, whoever's on Cemetery Hill is cut off. And now I can turn I'm assuming you'd be able to turn the entire Union right flank at that point with that as a pivot point.
Well,
Pretty close.
Come on. Oh, come on. Stop that. This hex is definitely in danger, and this is highly threatened.
Exactly. And so now the Rebs take that hex, and now things are very different. The whole situation is a very different, you've done what Lee was trying to do on the second and third day. You see how that first hex of Cemetery Hill is a four-sided salient. And that's what he was going, that was what he attacked. That's what the attack on, they were supposed to roll up from the Devil's Den. Well, they're supposed to go up the Emmitsburg Road, but they're basically coming up the wheat field. They're supposed to turn that whole Cemetery Ridge position and come into the bottom of Cemetery Hill, which is open. You see, you can come in from that direction. It's a clear terrain hex if you can attack from directly south of it.
But Dan, the hero Sickles, messed that plan up.
Again, I think Sickles might have saved the day inadvertently, even though, again, there was this, I don't know if you guys, how much history class you guys took. There was this German philosopher, I put it in my article, named Becker, and he had an interesting way of looking at it. He said that historical events, after they're done, disappear. They just go away. I mean, it's over. And what happens after that is people discuss it and they affirm what happened. And the affirmation, whether it's accurate or not, becomes the story. And a lot of Gettysburg has a lot of affirmation that has occurred over, a century, 150 years. But a lot of people are starting to relook at this stuff and they're saying, not so much. And so I have been steeped in that kind of thinking. And whether that's right or wrong, one of the things as a game designer, Frank Chadwick, I think, said it best. Obviously, a real talent, Frank Chadwick. He said, a game design is a designer's argument about why things turned out the way they did. And so this is my argument about why things turned out the way they did. Maybe people say Mark's full of shit, and people say that all the time. But on the other hand, I still am putting it out there. This is my view, and that's what I do for a living. So I've been doing it a long time. So I'm not saying.
I think that's a plus because all you different designers, your view. It's funny because we hear the comment, how many Gettysburg games can you have? Well, as long as you guys keep doing them with everybody's different views, we're getting different Gettysburg games, in my opinion.
And different scales. See, the one thing about this game, if you go back to this map, this is when you will someday get Lee Moves North. You guys, of course, will get it, but others who get a copy. The main part is you've got. Oh, by the way, you'll like this one, Hexy. I don't think I said this. So there are 4 Gettysburg scenarios on this map that are just one map scenario. So everybody goes, well, I'm not even going to be able to get 48 square feet of map out there. I got that. But how many East Front games do you have with 30 maps that you never set up also? So don't cry to me about that crap. But there are 4 Gettysburg scenarios on this map. So you got so I call them 1 dog, 2 dog, 3 dog, and 4 dog. So 1 dog is a fabulous. It's a 2-turn scenario of the first day only, and I've played it now. I don't even know how many. I play it all the time. It's just a shitload of fun. Then 2 dog is a 1-turn scenario now, and I've gone away from trying to give you guys. People have been pissing me off, and I'll say this. I write like you guys saw the 7 days battle rules in Army of the Potomac. I wrote like 2 fucking pages of special, of solitary rules, and I gave it a good solitaire rating. People go, I think the solitaire rating is high because it doesn't have solitaire rules. I'm going, what were the 2 pages about? Did I miss something? You didn't understand the words? I mean, I get all that. So I decided that hex encounter games, solitaire rules for hex encounter games are very difficult to do as a general rule, and I'm not even going to try anymore. Screw you all. But the 2 dog and 3 dog are just the afternoon of the second and third day. It's a 1-turn scenario, and there's so little movement before you start attacking that it effectively could be solitaire. But I'm not giving you solitaire rules. You can figure that out yourselves. But 4 dog is epic. You basically have the 4 days of Gettysburg because the July 4th, which is coming up on Saturday, is included.
Oh,
Nice.
that would be an interesting. I don't know of a game. Not off the top of my head that covers the.
Nobody does, but at this scale, it's interesting because we can either take it a little bit differently, but also, what happened on July 4th, which did not really play out, was the 6th Corps was ordered to attack the Confederate right flank, and Sedgwick didn't really push it that hard, but that was very much Sedgwick's problem. He wasn't that aggressive, and look at what he did at Chancellorsville. So, Sedgwick was Sedgwick, but the 6th Corps was ordered forward to attack, and it never really kind of materialized. And because remember, the Rebs are going down the Fairfield Road now. They're not going their wagon train. They got 2 wagon trains. One's going back over towards Chambersburg, and the other one's going down to Fairfield. And the one going down to Fairfield is basically running. The Union can see it. I mean, they're sitting on top of the round tops and they're looking out. They can see the wagon train going down the Fairfield Road. And so the 6th Corps attack was meant to cut into that. But now Longstreet has pulled his guys back, and early, the 2nd Corps has gone away and given back. Has moved away from Gettysburg. Everybody's on Seminary Ridge basically at this point in a straight line, while the wagon trains start to leave, and so the 6th Corps is supposed to attack against Longstreet on the Confederate right flank, and he doesn't really do it. There's some skirmishing, but nothing really happens. But this game will let you look at those possibilities.
Yep. No, that's what intrigues me, is to be able to do that 3rd day, as you're just talking about, or the 4th day, excuse me, as well as a campaign, going back into Virginia, because you have all the skirmishing by the cavalry at this point.
Oh yeah,
that was happening. Down Jeff, just above you in Hagerstown. The cavalry charged through the streets, and over there Williamsport as well. You could still kind of simulate that to try to cut off Lee, getting back to Virginia.
And when you play so let me talk about the scenarios briefly on the 1863. So somebody asked 1862. There are 3 scenarios. There's South Mountain, which is like a Fair Oaks. It's 2 turns, very few counters. It's interesting to look at. It's really D.H. Hill and some cavalry versus 2 Union Corps trying to punch through, Crampton and Fox and Turner's Gap. Then there's the Battle of Antietam, which is really cool. And then there's a 4-map campaign scenario I call it Order 191, because instead of trying to come up with some hokey, roll the die, when do they find the 3 cigars and all that bullshit, that's just all, that's hooey to me. I start the scenario on September 13th when they found the order, which is what energizes McClellan to start moving, which is what really caught Lee off guard was he didn't think McClellan was going to move for weeks. And all of a sudden McClellan's getting not acting like McClellan, and he didn't know why until long afterwards. But so I start the scenario when the order was found on September 13th, and that's a 4-mapper. And then you don't have to fight the Battle of Antietam. You can fight differently in South Mountain. All sorts of weird stuff can happen. You get to a different kind of scenario at that point. And then on the Gettysburg side, so if you got I just told you about the 4 days of, you got a 1 map, 2 turns. And by the way, Antietam is a very interesting scenario. It's 2 turns, but it's a real slugfest. I mean, it's just crazy stuff going on. And then you got the 4 scenarios on this one. So basically you've got 5 scenarios on 1 map out of 12. So you've got a lot of scenarios. Oh, I forgot to tell you. And you also have 1864. You've got Early's attack at Monocacy, which is basically 2 maps, but 1 map. You've got Monocacy Junction. So you got a whole bunch of scenarios on 1 map. And then you've got the June 23rd scenario, which basically starts with the Union Army is just off the south edge of map H. And then the first turn, that's what I'm play testing right now. They come rolling north, and Lee has already crossed the Potomac. And, the Second Corps is somewhat up the Cumberland Valley. The 3rd Corps is on map G, like near Harper's Ferry, after Winchester's been taken. And then the 1st Corps is coming up behind that. So that scenario starts at June 23rd. Hook is still the Army commander. Then there's a June 28th scenario, which is Meade takes command. Now that one starts with the Union Army is basically at Frederick. And the Confederate Army is way the hell up on map A. So that one's kind of interesting, just the visual of, down here is the Union Army, and way the heck up there is the Confederate Army. And Ewell's already off the map to Harrisburg and York. And then there's the theater thing that starts on June 3rd, which is with the blocks until you get to the campaign maps.
Wow.
So there's 12 scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, I was thumbing through that today. I haven't looked at detail, but there's going to be a lot in there for any level that people are looking for.
Like I said, if you got Lee moves north, just like if you got if you got Army of the Potomac and all you did was play the 7 Days Battle by itself, there are people who sell games on 7 Days Battle as a game.
Right. So this should be neat. Now you're working hard on this. You were telling me.
All right, I'm handing this over to the developer on Monday.
Yeah. Okay. So this. People are going to start seeing more on this pretty.
Well, it's going to be on the P500. Because of all the conventions, the P500, the July P500. Now we're in July, so whatever. Usually the P500 drops around the middle of the month. So in the middle of the month, I've already done the write-up. There, when Kai gets back from her vacation, she'll do the costing, so we'll know how much this beast is going to cost. And I purposely, based on information, there's only the 1863 theater scenario because the wooden blocks have gone. If I go back even just 3 years ago, a wooden block, like you would get in any of the Command and Colors games or whatever, those blocks, they went for about 3 cents a block. Now they go for like 13 cents a block.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's 4 times as much.
Phantom Tom Captain, okay. it is my look. First off, I'm not even sure anybody even wants Lee Moves North, so we'll see what happens. But assuming it makes its P5 and it gets published, the next one is going to be Vicksburg. We're going west.
Going west.
But now I've got a theater. I've got a theater module, which is I'm not going to be adding any more levels. So the theater module is what allows me to do the Mississippi River. I can do the whole Mississippi River now.
Oh, so all the way down into Louisiana, all the way up to Memphis,
And yeah, so my goal is you'll have effectively, the 1860. You're going to have Henry Donaldson, Shiloh, Corinth campaign is one of the main campaigns, and then you're going to have the whole Vicksburg campaign, and then there's a bunch of stuff around that I may, depending on, what I can get away, with. I'll try to get something that is in Tennessee, maybe, or who knows. I got to and remember we've already got Chickamauga and Chattanooga, so whatever I do could link up with those maps.
Yeah. Well, that whole piece of it there from middle to eastern Tennessee, as well as Kentucky and northern Georgia.
Well, the theater map will cover it, but it's the grand tactical maps. How many of those I can, things in the West are more spread out.
I got
as long as you can line up like 20 maps, Mark, you should be able to cover the Mississippi from St. Louis to New Orleans.
Yeah, and you know what? I can only cajoling, getting Charlie Kibler to do these 8 maps took the fact that I have a 35-year relationship with him to make that happen.
Did anybody see the Harry Heath Yelp post on Facebook?
No.
Somebody did a like he was on Yelp, and it was General Harry Heath making a post. And here, just real quick, it says, "It started out as a minor scrape with a few militia. The next thing I know, I'm tangled with half the Union Army. No recon, no support, no clue. Terrain was a mess, ridges, fences, and not a decent map in sight. Tried to press the attack, and suddenly Reynolds shows up like he owns the place. Whole thing escalated way beyond expectations. Poor communication, poor planning, terrible outcome. 1 star, would not invade again."
That's pretty funny.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's funny.
But what's the score of this game? Is it still 1-0? I can't tell. Give me 1 second. I got to see if the score is still 1-0.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, thank all you guys for showing up out there in that chat. Y'all have given me a little energy. Does it mean Hexy's going to get
this is good news.
I don't know.
The U.S. is up 2-0. I knew that it wasn't a 1. I mean, I don't have my glasses on, and it's more than well outside of my detailed visual range. The score is 2-0. I knew that wasn't a 1. It's a 2-0 game right now.
All right, that's good.
Yay, USA.
No, this is all exciting, and I think if you do go out west, if you do get up to St. Louis, I think Andrew and Todd want their houses on a map there someday there too.
I'm sure everybody does, but
You have to scale the counters down.
the other thing I'm going to try, and I'm pretty sure the 5th volume is going to be, Sherman.
That makes sense.
I'm trying to get this thing done in 6 volumes, so I got to, and obviously I got to get Manassas in there somewhere. But what's cool about the theater, when you see the theater map, I don't have one handy because I mailed a tube of maps to Cole Worley's a friend of mine, and he lives in St. Paul for this convention the weekend after this one that I'm going to, and I mailed him a tube of the maps to show at the show. And that one has my theater map, and the other theater map is actually in my office where I'm working on it. So it's underneath, it's got pieces on it. That
was the other thing you're saying. You're going to the SD HISCON North, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if anybody's going up to there,
Yeah, somebody already posted that they were looking forward to it.
Oh, did they?
The inability of the Army to not take to the offensive against Army of Northern after Antietam and Gettysburg was that those battles had exhausted the Federals. The answer is. No, I don't agree. Wait, William, whatever. Well, I'm going to call you William.
William Aarons. Yep, William Aarons.
Yeah, I would say that there's some, it's not a yes or no answer. It's a gray area, right? So after Antietam, so now we're going back to, and I've read, oh my God, I've read so many books on Antietam lately. Franklin's, I got to get the generals right. Franklin's 5th, 6th Corps and Porter's 5th Corps hadn't even, I think Porter's 5th Corps had like 95 casualties, and the 6th Corps had like 12, also like 50 casualties. So you had 2 fresh Union Corps that hadn't even been in a battle yet, and Lee was, beat up. So there was plenty of Federals to launch. In fact, Lee was surprised that everybody was surprised that there was no attack on the 18th, of September. So that is a great what if. And now what happens in the scenario that I did, just the compact lines, you can't even get that many Union, the Lee's lines are so compact, you can't even bring that many guys to bear. Forget about rules for stopping the use of it's the geography and the terrain prevent you from doing a lot because it's just not a lot of room.
Yeah, and especially with the 5th Corps being across the creek, they would have a tough battle.
Well, remember, Franklin was also across the creek because he had come in from Pleasant Valley around the back of the Union Army.
Yep.
So
both of them would have to cross the creek at some point, and most likely at the Middle Bridge, which was even tougher than Burnside's.
And by the way, Burnside almost won the battle. If A.P. Hill had been 3 hours later, Lee was cooked. It was that close. Burnside was beaten up on, I think it was D.H. Hill at that point, or J.R. Jones. It was a mixture of that brigade.
Both. It was Jones and Hill.
And they were already in the outskirts of Sharpsburg when A.P. Hill showed up.
Yep.
So they were about to win that thing. So, Burnside almost pulled it off. But imagine, McClellan and Lee, one of my things that I think I've, sort of gotten in my head is Lee and McClellan both had a very macro leadership style. They would sort of say, here's kind of what I want to do, and then let their subordinate corps commanders just operate. They didn't do a lot of micromanaging. McClellan barely even talked to anybody. Lee did a little bit more, but he was very hands-off usually. And so the subordinates mattered. So who were the subordinates that Lee had? He had Longstreet and Jackson, and he had a reserve that he was in charge of because he hadn't created the 3rd Corps. So there's a reserve bunch of units that are part of Lee's kind of command, if you want to call it that. So they had the same style, but McClellan's subordinates were Hooker was actually I think Hooker had his best day as a corps commander, but he got wounded. Mansfield and the 12th got killed. That slowed him down. Mansfield was only in charge of the 12th Corps for 2 days. So he had a short but glorious career as corps commander. And then you have, and then you've got Burnside. And those are the only 3 guys that were really able to get their forces engaged that day because, Porter didn't do anything. Sykes had a short excursion across the Middle Bridge, but didn't do. That's where the 95 casualties came from. The 6th Corps didn't do anything, and Couch, who was kind of like a 4th Corps, just wandered. Morell. He just kind of wandered around from, the Cumberland Valley, over the passes, and he didn't even show up on the battlefield really until the very end, and he did nothing. So fully about half of. But in a force structure game, you have to stop the Union from getting those guys to bear, otherwise they'll win the battle too quickly. Where they don't have to worry about that stuff. The scale handles all of it. It just works out just right because the frontage of a half-mile hex, 2 brigades is the frontage of a half-mile hex. If you didn't know that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I do choose these things on purpose.
There is purpose behind it. That's why we want to have you on to explain that stuff, so that people get an understanding of it, which is
and that's
great.
why. And I chose that scale specifically so there's no stacking. See, that's what makes. I don't know about you guys, but stacking is a necessary evil. I've used it 100 times, but I prefer not to. Hexa, you played all my Alexander games, right? There's no stacking. Sometimes you put 2 phalanxes on top of each other, but basically there's no stacking.
I haven't. Yeah, no, I've not put nothing on top of anybody.
Yeah, other than the leaders, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Leaders are special. Yeah, so I like when I can not have stacking.
Thank you.
Yep.
I like it too. There's quite a few games out there that getting rid of a lot of these counters. on top of units or whatever to overstack. I think that's why with me and GBACW, the full rules, I'm a little hesitant anymore to touch it. The simple works for me. I'm still playing that. But I like the GBOH stuff, Mark. I really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you. Well, Berg and I had fun doing it. And
Good. Well, we're just coming up on 2 hours here. We've put it away, but no, this is great stuff. I mean, I like hearing the backstory. I like hearing the new stuff. Looking forward to seeing that and hopefully helping you a little bit, play test that down the road.
Yeah, so Joel Topin, now that we have fun, right now, Blue Panther, and I just got a note from them, and I'm going to pay some extra money. They're shipping them out overnight. I'll have them by Friday. So I'll have them at the new, so I basically got a full set of counters. And all the people that kept complaining, like, remember how we were using wooden cubes to remember how the HQ ranges were?
Yeah.
I've added, we had some extra counters. So you're going to get like 14 counters for each side that have a little like tent. And it says HQ range. And so you can put those on the map to keep track of it, as opposed to using wooden cubes. I like the wooden cubes, but this way people have a way of doing it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's going to be nice. I mean, I was making my own. I mean, after I saw yours at GMT East, it's kind of like, boy, I can make my own with a little knob on top to make it easier to move around and stuff.
Yeah, a little template.
Yeah.
Well, now, like I said, you could still do that. People pimp out their games all the time, but at least this way, people have it.
That's pretty
It's
awesome.
in the box. It's part of the box. But I'm really excited. Actually, given that we're getting to the end of the show, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you guys a fun visual if you got a second.
Yes.
But I got to disconnect all this equipment. Hang on. So, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you. Yep.
Yeah, because now I'm on the computer. No, but now it's the computer. It's only the computer. I just disconnect. I set up sort of like a small, microphone also. Let's see.
We were getting behind the scenes in the Bat Cave of Mark Herman.
Jesus Christ.
Now,
wait a minute. We got to.
so
Still
we'll
on
do a
Harper's
close-up.
Ferry. I can point out Harper's Ferry. Oh,
Yeah,
we lost.
so your house, Hexy, is
Want to get him on full screen.
here's falling waters.
Make it full screen.
He's trying.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Can you
How
see
do I-
it?
Hold on. How do I get him on full screen? I can't get him.
I got it. Hold on.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Sorry, Mark. We're just learning how to do this.
Thank you.
Nice.
There we
Todd,
go.
Here's falling river. Here's falling waters. Here's the Potomac River. This is
Harper's Ferry, a little
Anderson
Shepherdstown.
Crossing here at Shepherdstown, which is here's Sharpsburg.
is Martinsburg on that map?
No, Martinsburg is on the theater map because Martinsburg is like right down this road here.
Okay.
Martinsburg's here.
Now, Martinsburg's south of Falling Waters.
Yeah, but it's like over here somewhere.
Yeah.
This is Williamsport.
Wait a minute. Pull that back out. You got Martinsburg on there.
Yeah. I'm about to say it's just down the road.
Yeah, it's
from-
literally like
Yeah, yeah. It's just
It's right
I
there,
know it's
Mark.
just off
No,
the map
Mark, it's
here.
by your finger. Go to your right a little bit on the map. Isn't that Martinsburg? Now stop and come down. Isn't that what's that?
No,
right
this
there?
is called the Martinsburg and Williamsburg Road. Martinsburg is here.
Well, what's that big town right there? On
That's
the
Haynesville.
Haynesville's one of our little communities. It's like a dot.
Yeah, well, this is remember. Look at the scale. This is like individual houses here.
Okay.
So this is Heth coming toward, moving towards the river. Here's the whole Cumberland Valley. So up here, you've got
Shit.
Johnson's over here, Early's here, Rhodes is here. The HQ is just how you move, but that's where the second corps is there, and then here is the first corps is just coming on the map from the Shenandoah Valley. Here's Harper's Ferry with its fortifications. And then the Union Army, here's Edwards Ford. The Union Army is going to start entering this turn here.
Dude.
Hey, Mark. Real
Yeah.
quick. How wide is that bottom part and how high does that go again? How the map?
Hey, wait, can you explain to me what the question was?
How wide in inches is that bottom part of that map that you're looking at with that remote control right there? And then how
You can
long?
use feet.
Oh, so this is two maps. This is map G and H. These are two maps side by side.
Okay,
So
so that's,
basically, think of it as two columns. Is down. Can you see the end of the table there?
No.
No.
Oh, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Here's
up there. There you go. Yeah.
okay. So there's Chambersburg,
Okay,
and that's the road to Gettysburg is over there.
okay,
So this is map A, C,
okay.
E. This is where Sharpsburg is. E is there's Sharpsburg, and G is the lower part of the valley is here.
okay,
And
so
then this, and then Gettysburg is the map we've been looking at is there. That's Gettysburg. You see Gettysburg,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
and then this is. So I was telling you. So where are we here? Here's Emmitsburg, and here is Taneytown, and that's Gettysburg. You see, so you can see how they're all related, and then there's Frederick, and Washington is just down the road. Here's Monocacy. Monocacy battles here.
Yeah.
And that's all the reinforcements, tracks, and that crap.
so
So
you
that's what it looks like.
approximately 8 foot by 6 foot table to lay this out.
No, the maps are 8 feet by 6 feet. Yes, there's 48 square feet.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Todd, I need to build another extension on the big table, buddy.
So I hope you see the. Is there anything else you want to see while I got it over here, or are you good?
That's
No.
awesome.
That's awesome. McMurray, you're going to need an extension to the garage. Forget the table.
Now, to be clear, but just because look, I like to think that that's the sizzle that sells the steak, as they say. But remember, you've got half a dozen scenarios on one map.
Oh yeah.
Right, and that's what people are going to want because who has that table space. So that's cool.
Well, there are conventions,
Sure.
but beyond
McMurray,
conventions, you're right. It's there. Let me just plug everything back in here.
and McMurray's garage.
Again,
Can you hear me still? Can you hear me again?
Yeah. Good.
Wow, that I can't believe that didn't crash.
was that just like a wireless camera?
Say again?
Laptop.
No, it's his
No,
laptop.
I was carrying my laptop around.
Oh,
I'm using my laptop for the camera, but
Yeah.
what I've got set up here is I got you can see the monitor over there. I've got a ball. I got this ball mic now that I found from long ago, which I'm using. And so I got a little bit of and then I got a space that when I work with these guys, I have space for a live map over here. I got a screen I can see the Vassal set over here. I got a microphone, so I got a little bit of a corner that I can at least do some of these online things now.
Was that your radio handset inside your sermon during World War II?
Yeah. Anyway, you got to see see what I'm playing with right now.
That's cool.
God, that's cool.
That's gonna be awesome. So
Just saying, I designed that game was designed for me. You guys are welcome to play it if you want to.
Yes.
That was done for me.
No, I'm like, yeah. It's like I'm like, Mark, when are you getting the stuff, and when are you having the weekend down there? I'm
Yeah, so Joel, so the counters, I'll have the finish. Well, let's call them basically the penultimate. I think the Americans won the game. I think the game's over. Yay! The near final counters when I'll have a set of those on Friday. We're sending. I paid a bunch of money to have this shipped overnight because I want them for the show, and then the maps are done. The rule, the core rules have been slightly. I got a couple of clarifications that people. There's a couple of guys who are asking. First of all, I want to say I appreciate everybody who plays my games and takes the time to try to figure them out. So thank you very much. And this guy is, is very. His mind works differently than mine, and so he's been asking a lot of questions. And most people are answering for him, but he's very. He's literal, but he keeps adding words that aren't on the page. That's the problem he's got. So I keep saying, just read the words. Don't, if it doesn't say there's an exception, there's no exception. Yeah, so don't.
Alan and I have been going around about this with a couple of game systems recently we've been playing. If the freaking rule's not in there, don't try to put it in there.
That, look, our tribe has a lot of different members, and some people have sort of their minds work differently. That's all. It's not a good or a bad thing. And so we just all have to get aligned on what the rules are, and it takes a little longer for some than others. That's fine. I'll help. But the point of the story is that the core rules are identical. So you asked me if there are any changes to the core rules. No. There is, the only thing I added to the campaign rules is this cautious HQ rule, which is that's a campaign rule addition. Other than that, the campaign rules are identical. There you go. So you've already got the rules. You already know how to play. So ultimately, if you know how to play Rebel Fury and you were to get Lee Moves North or Army of the Potomac, you can play a one-map scenario out of the box. You don't have to read anything other than the setup instructions.
Well, I'll say
that was my intent.
You guys out there that haven't touched the system yet, I'm going to go ahead and want to backtrack. We've said it a dozen times. Alan and I weren't sure. Mark straightened this out. If you want a game that plays well, it's not hard to learn, and will make your fucking head hurt trying to figure out what you want to do, this is it right here. And you're not going to struggle with playing the game. You're going to struggle with the decisions you make when you're playing this game, which would be typical. It's the way it should be.
Yep. No, it's good. Thank you. We'll be showing more of this as things progress with Mark. I know, Mark, you got a few things going on here this month. You got his. Well,
mostly Joel Topin now has the maps and the counters, and I think he's going to start. We'll have a vassal set before the end of July. That's pretty obvious, and I'll get that out to you guys, and we'll start to mess around with it.
Play testing a little bit more, and I've got like I was talking with you before. I've got potentially more people getting online with this as well. So that will be. Cool.
I'm at the point where I know the fact that the theater module works, mechanically. I mean, I know how to do that, but I haven't had the experience of playing it because I'm not schizophrenic, and my memory is too good. So I can't with Stratego, it's like playing Stratego one-on-one. It's just like, what are you going to do? Where the bomb and the flags are. So it's not that interesting.
We'll help with that. We'll help with that as best we can with everything.
Yeah. So. I need another human. I think I've almost got my wife talked into playing. She's there. I mean, I'm using, marriage credits to get her to play a couple of turns of the theater module. And she's sort of agreed to it. But she's had a lot going on with her mother's 100 years old. I was telling you, Alan, her mother is having a rough time being 100 all of a sudden, and she's having a rough time dealing with her mother being 100. So we're getting her to play a game at this point is.
But just agreeing to potentially doing that sometime in the
future. She will at some point. Yeah.
So I'm getting an off view question from Clay.
Go ahead.
So you can join Rebel Fury with Army of Potomac maps for a bigger game?
Actually, I didn't hear the whole question. I'm so sorry.
So you can join Rebel Fury with Army of the Potomac maps for a bigger game?
Hang on. Yes. The answer is yes. So
there you go, Clay.
I'm going to try to show the actual rule booklet. There's a picture.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Okay. You'll need a bigger table, McMurray. Sorry.
Okay. Here is the picture.
Yeah, there you go.
See it? That's the Rebel Fury map, the one that's canted, and the other one is map A of Army of the Potomac. And this is on page, if you have Army of the Potomac, it's page 36, Extended Overland Campaign, May 5th to June 5th, 1864.
Oh, that's a different game. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you, Jeff. You got them on full screen. So very cool. That's going to be a lot of fun. I still got to play that, and I still got to play some more.
I'm going to be playing. This will be at HIS North. I'm going to be showing. I mean, I'm going to literally be bringing this. I mean, you've got 6 maps in Army of the Potomac. I got 8 maps in Williams North. I don't think they got enough table space in St. Paul for these games.
You got your own room.
It's going to be one of those rooms with the rubber walls,
It should be
walls.
should be fun. We want to see pictures. We got to see pictures.
Well, they'll be picked. Yeah, I'll try. But I am going to have a Rebel Fury. I'm going to basically be teaching Rebel Fury system through that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, for me, it's only a 1-day convention because we're going to get there Friday. My son's coming with me, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'll have my little boy who's 35 and, built like a small tank. But he's still my little boy. So I'll have my little boy with me. And he hasn't been to a convention in a long time. And then Sunday we're flying home. So, it's just Saturday is really the convention for us.
Well, everybody's heard that. He's going to be out at SD HisCon in
St. Paul, Minnesota.
St. Paul. Yep. That's coming up here.
It's going to be at this. It should be interesting. It's apparently an upstairs public area that we're renting, or they're renting, that is, it's a railroad depot, but an active one downstairs. Like, trains coming in and all that. Should be pretty different. I don't know. We'll see how it is.
There's Stigler.
I'm going to change his name from Stigler to Lurker.
Hey, Stig. Well, unfortunately, we're just kind of wrapping up here, saying thank you to Mark for coming on and talking with us here. July 1, Gettysburg, new stuff, old stuff, everything stuff. And, checking that
out. I want to thank Todd and Hex and McMurray there for joining in on the conversation. Hope you guys had fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is fantastic.
Yep. Thanks, guys. There. How's your game going, Todd?
Oh, it's kind of slow because it's kind of hard to converse when you're learning a game. So I'm just getting the efficiency ratings and all that stuff figured out. So
yeah. So here you go. Well, a little away from this, but somebody's been emailing me, one of our viewers, and he's had a couple interesting questions about GBACW, and he's been pounding the channel, looking at all the instructionals and stuff, and watching some of the videos of the different things that we've all done. And he hit me up with the question of, Hexy, what's the best way for me to start learning this system? And my thing was with full rules, GBACW, I said, look, master command so that you understand how orders, how units can function within their command. Master that, then do a little bit of your movement, and then address fire, combat, and shock. And I can't think of, and then all the other odds and ends shit, you can figure that out yourself later. But you got it and if you think about it, even though in this system here, command is what side is your leader on, what's his range, and what you can't do outside of it, and what you can't do inside of it. And there you go, you have it. So, and it seems to function very well. Don't forget, 19 October, even though I'm in a slump right now, that is still the game plan.
By the way, believe it or not, you're going to get to meet my better half. She is agreed to come to Gettysburg.
Oh, good. Oh, now the trip's worth it. All y'all should be there.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're going to see the hot girl I married long ago.
That's awesome.
19 October.
And she plays 4 games. Come on.
Now, well, that is she. Like I said, she may have to her credit the theater module for Lee Moves North. I'm working on her for that, but for her, a day to go through all the shop. There's a lot of cool antique shops and stuff in that area. So she'll have. We'll let her have the car, and she can go wandering off to do whatever the hell she's going to do, and we can go. And I want to go look at the peach orchard.
Tour guide Phil, if you're still in there, you're still down for October, right?
Yep. Yeah, we got to make contact with Phil. We'll be talking about that. More immediate. Summertime here, it's a little tough getting the live streams going weekly, as we've been doing in the spring. And as Hexy said, he's a little bit of a slump, so that's why we've been off a little bit. But I've got some more stuff lining up here. I'm kind of the schedule master here. We've got some good stuff coming down the pike here with not only Mark coming back on here again, but we've got a few other things that I'm working on here too. So we're going to see a lot more people do a lot more things like this with other games, as well as with Mark here in the future. So stay tuned.
Tomorrow. Now I think that's going to be recorded, but I'm going to do at 6 o'clock. Ardwolf's going to do a designer unboxing of Army of the Potomac. So if you want to both see the unboxing, but more about the discussion about the game, I'll be doing that with Ardwolf. But I don't know that it's not a live. I don't think it's a live stream, but he'll post it sooner than later.
Yeah,
we play with you, so Tell Gary to take a hike.
Hey, by the way, all of those games, I think it's like 36 hours of games we did are on the GMT website for the games, by the way. They're all,
really?
linked, in,
I
they're
saw
all
that.
linked in there. Yeah.
We are now on the GFT website.
Did not
That
know.
is badass.
Yeah, if you go to Rebel Fury and Army of the Potomac, all of those live streams of you guys and me are now linked back to that.
Well, good deal.
Sweet. Good job.
Good deal.
Thank you for making that
Yeah,
happen.
good stuff. Yeah,
Hey.
Mark, I'm glad you decided to come on with us that first time and then spin these games around a little bit. And
You know, at my heart, I just like to play games, and you guys like to play games, so I like that. You know,
Good.
let's talk more playing. You know,
We'll take you up on that. We'll talk with you offline.
I'm ready anytime. You know, you and I, we've had two. We played Chickamauga. What was the other one we played?
Yeah,
Wilderness.
Wilderness. Well, we're right in the neighborhood, so it's as we were talking, it's not that far away.
Well, like I said, once we get the Vassal set we got to play Gettysburg. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's just and
Oh, yeah.
Antietam. We can play Gettysburg and Antietam. It'd be great. By the way, we will be able to finish in one night, one dog for sure. It's only 2 turns.
Yeah. Sounds good.
well, we're going to
All
be
right.
there, guys. We're going to be there. And if it's easy for you to get there, I recommend you come. You know, the knowledge base of all you guys out there, all these guys on here, and then tour guide Phil going along with us. There won't be nothing. If you got questions, somebody can answer them. Maybe you can answer some questions that we have, because every time I go to Gettysburg, something new crosses my brain.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a question that I need to ask.
And I'm going to be bringing I'll be bringing the maps from Lee Moves North. I want to see that map and the real terrain to see how it feels. You know, when you see, the map is at Gettysburg.
That would be awesome.
That's,
That would be
yes.
So I'll
awesome.
definitely have it. In fact, the game might
we
even
gotta
be.
try to Gettysburg in October.
Well, it'll be a little. It could be anything from freezing cold to very warm to very rainy. It could be anything.
Todd, I know you said you're busy, but we're not busy anymore. We gotta try to Gettysburg.
But you have a place to stay, so.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even though you said you'd never let us stay again.
No, I said I'll never let Todd stay again. But I guess if you're coming,
Perfect. I get the comfy couch.
no, you guys are welcome here anytime. So. I
And this
will be
your
staying.
own
I want to
key.
be clear. I will be staying with my wife in a hotel.
I'm not staying up there. It's
Their
too
bedroom and the comfiest
She's not.
couch.
She's not one for roughing it. You know.
That's fair.
Yeah, she's not one. She's not a roughing it kind of gal. We're not going to go with the tent on the battlefield. That's not happening.
Yeah, David Murray and I'll do that. Don't worry. Nord, where are you getting a Pennsylvania rifle from, and where's the Springfield coming from? Sorry, guys, I just got.
Oh yeah. You're talking about this one real quick.
I want to get on the stuff.
Where's that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, if it's like
Somebody's getting a birthday present.
Yeah, if it's a Kibler flintlock, that's great, especially if you buy it damn near done. The one thing that always bugs me is, Nord, you can get kits way cheaper. You used to be able to pay. It's not Charlie Kibler. I don't remember what the guy who builds muzzleloader kits name is. It's Kibler, but you used to be able to pay him to put the sights on the rifle, like to braze them on, which is always good, because I just got a 1861 and I almost grabbed one of the Traditions kits, but you got to braze the sights on, and that's the epitome of something I would.
Here you go, McMurray. He replied.
Oh, there you go.
Alan, close this thing up, brother.
Yeah, we got to close this up. Thanks everybody for coming on. Stay tuned in the future. Look out for on Facebook and everything else for next shows. And thanks everybody. We'll talk to everybody later.
Thanks all. See you.
Good to see everybody. Bye, guys. See you, Paulie.
Bye.